It's all right. Oh, okay, thanks.
It's 5 above.
Yeah, clock's a little bit off. Crank a little bit. This one coming.
This is last year's.
You can't even go by that. That's so bad.
Here's this. Okay, remember all that?
Mm-hmm.
Here. Here. Right here.
This is 2018.
Mm-hmm. I know.
That must have. Is that what it's trending? Maybe this amount year to date. This is where you're at right now.
I know.
Which is under that. This is what's projecting for the year. This is what he's projecting for the year to end at.
That's what he's saying, that's the budget. But that's what we're saying, put in the budget.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Nice minute tweak it, sir.
And I brought donuts and brownies and water if you need.
No, thank you.
Some people didn't eat, so pass it around.
Debbie, will you be calling me in order? You want me to do it? So,
This is me. If you want to call, pull you in on that. The pledge.
Is Scott joining us?
He's downstairs. He said if we needed, we could bring him up here. Wasn't intended. I know where the numbers are.
Is Scott coming?
Not that I know of.
Oh, how about Chief?
Don't know. I have no idea.
Scott's not gonna be here?
I don't think so.
What if we have questions on the budget?
I was going to ask him to come up, but he wasn't going to. It's up to you.
and we've had it for a couple of weeks now, at least you could have asked
him to
him.
make changes on.
But we didn't have the public here, and I think that we should ask questions in front of the public.
Well, you're going to, well, we're going to talk
gonna
to
do
each
that
other
now.
about this.
But
That's why
you
we're
could have
here.
asked him so you could come with the answers, but that's okay. It's up to you.
That is right, it is up to me, thank
We
you,
all do things differently, I guess.
I guess.
I took my volume.
Are you ready to go?
6:59.
All right, let's go to Prescott. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our budget meeting. I start any meeting, whether it's a committee one, whatever that is, with our pledge, so please stand for that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we begin, I'll let everybody know, this is a work session meeting for us on the budget. There's no voting going on tonight. So anyone that wants to say anything on public comment, we're going to move that to the end of the meeting. So you have 3 minutes at that particular time, but it's best for us to get into this. This is what we're doing. You can all listen on that and weigh in at the very end if you'd like, okay? I'm going to ask Mike Yeager, who's head of our finance committee, who's had several meetings through the year with the other members, which is Justin and Danielle. So I asked him to start this off with us as we start going through each of these budget areas.
And just to say a few words about the budget for those who may not be as familiar with it, there's several sections to the budget. There is the general fund. The general fund is the biggest section of the, oh, I'm sorry.
Is this on the mic?
People at home aren't able to hear you probably.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Thank you.
Yeah, turn it on. But you're good.
Okay, so there's several sections to the budget. The general fund is the biggest portion of the budget, and we're going to be starting off with that because it's at the top of the budget. There are revenues that go into the general fund that cover everything from the police department to MMA services to admin services. It's in there. Then there are other smaller dedicated funds where, for instance, there's 3 mils that goes to the ambulance squad. There are other dedicated funds that we put millage in or put tax dollars in that aren't affected by the general fund and the general operations of the borough. So we're going to start with the general fund. I'm going to let these guys take the lead with, they want to go line by line, I believe, and we're going to do that, and we're going to talk about areas we need to adjust. And I said this in the meeting the other night, this is fluid. This is pretty much a wish list. In the past, Borough Council as a whole wasn't really getting the wish list. They were getting a pared down version after there was a lot of negotiation going on. This was the wish list that was provided to us, and that's where we're starting this. This budget will not look like this by the time it's done. All right. So if you guys want to get started with where you want to start from a line item perspective, let's do that.
Do you want to start with the asset area where we were talking about the permit money, the third party, as far as that's actually being pulled out, that actually shouldn't have been in there? Or you want to, we actually mentioned that to Scott. You want to just go right into the actual revenues of the general fund?
So it's up to you guys, but just to clarify what Debbie's talking about, as some of us were going through this ahead of time, which is what I like to do. I like to be prepared and go through these things ahead of time. We started noticing some inconsistencies, one of which is revenues from permits are going into an asset level area in the budget instead of as a revenue source. Because what was happening in the past was those monies were not being counted as a revenue because we were using a third-party agency, and the agency was getting 100% of those revenues. So they didn't want to show it as a revenue or an expense, so they put it in an asset file, which is not, from a GAAP perspective, the right thing to do, and it's something that was going on for many years. Going into next year, that will be corrected, but this year, it was already set up that way, and for many months, the same people were continuing to process it that way, so we left it static so it wouldn't throw off the numbers overall. So there are revenues for permits, which is, I think, $54,000. Hold on.
54,093.69.
That's what it is, 54,093. That's actually revenue that's showing in the asset file. So
Right.
other than that, those assets are, I believe they were okay beyond that.
Right,
But
right.
that's something that'll be changing for next year.
Right, and that only happened because the way we were reconfiguring how we were doing the code enforcing. So
Correct.
that's why that needs to be moved and corrected back.
There is an argument to not having done it that way to begin with too, though, to be honest with you.
That's the way it is. It was done that way.
Yep, so it was left that way.
Okay.
Do we want to go through the revenues or just focus on the expenses?
I would do the revenues first and see where you're actually pulling that in, and then see at what percentage we are at this point, what's projected to be by the end of the year.
Okay, you guys can take it line by line.
Okay. Okay. Your real estate taxes. You're pulling in year-to-date is 1,739,593, 2 cents. Prior years in your taxes, 43,567, 58 cents.
What are you looking at?
Down where your revenues are.
No, which budget are you, can you just show me what yours looks like?
The one he sent.
Okay, but this, yes,
Oh,
that's,
you're looking at this.
yes, there are 2 different ones, so just want to make sure that we're all looking at the
Yes.
same one.
Okay.
Thank you.
That is what you're looking at, right? So if you look at the revenues under the general fund, you see where I'm showing where year-to-date, where we're sitting with our monies, what we have so far, and what was projected we get?
And then you have your taxes prior years.
Yeah, and for the purpose of expediting, why don't we just read out what the amount we expected from a budget perspective and where we are?
Yeah, right now you're like 83% of your finances. So you're at $3,884,311.72. The budget was projecting it to be $4,680,467.
And that's with, I think, 98% of real estate taxes collected. So there's,
99%,
I'm sorry?
99%.
99% we're up to, okay. So we're not expecting much more from real estate taxes. Obviously, they come much earlier in the year.
Right, right. And when you're looking at, even in your finance statement as to where other revenues are going to be coming in, even in prior years, you're at like 62%, per capita is 88%. A lot of the stuff is not going to move. Your transfer, real estate taxes at 95%. Let's see, most of the stuff is, you get another portion from your cable companies, because, and that actually will come in usually January. It doesn't come in by the end of the year, and that's just the way their contract's set up with that. So that's why you're sitting with them at like 46 and 47% on that. Traffic fines at 71%, police fines 78%, parking fines 83%, police reports 99%. So it just shows you where you're trending as far as where your monies are, as to where you would possibly bring in any extra revenues. And there isn't a whole lot. And one thing that was done by the previous administration was they actually put in for the MMA voucher, agreement that we have at $670,000, which was actually $650,000. So right there, you were already over by $20,000 on what you were actually getting.
Another big chunk we're missing is sanitation prior years. We budgeted 200,000, we're at 106, we'll probably end up
Yeah.
somewhere around 120.
Yeah, we're going to be
So
below that.
we're gonna miss by about 80 grand on that line alone.
Right, right. That was overestimated on that amount, too. Scott did bring that down. There's no way you're going to get anywhere near that next year. I think next year was like 100,000 he's expecting, or trying to get. Each year, that's going to keep going down because you're collecting those back. Sanitation, and the further back you go on the timeframe on that, the less you're going to pull in from the people that owe that. So that's not a guarantee. So everybody's gone through this. You've had this for a while, and you're looking at where you have your revenues. I don't know if anyone can see any other areas where you think that we are going to be able to bring extra money in from what we have on here.
We aren't, but looking at 2019, and I mentioned this to Scott, I think 100,000 for next year for sanitation prior years is high, and he agreed, and it's probably going to end up somewhere around 80,000 because of the runoff from the prior collections.
I was expecting less than that.
Yeah. So there's some of the adjustments to the projected numbers that are still in question as well. And certainly the trash collection and recycling fees is pending a decision on what that's going to be this year with the
Right.
increased contract amount from with the sanitation company.
And we're actually under the amount that we would normally get from that agreement also, that grant. So right now, that's where our revenues is sitting at this point. If we get what is projected, like I said, you would be at the $4,680,467 by the end of 2018.
I had a question, and maybe this is what you were talking about in the beginning of the meeting, but the building permits and street fees and the use and occupancy permits, it was budgeted for 35,000, but it looks like we brought in about 10,000 under the building permits and about 2,000 under the use and occupancy permits. Is that what you were talking about in the beginning of the meeting?
No, that's actually separate. That is what you're pulling in there, but you have to add that into this third-party permit because they are our third-party company, as to who that is. So before, when that was put in there, that's what we were paying another company to do that, separate from what we were also paying our code enforcement.
No, this is
So there's another
this is the
50
revenue.
Yeah, there's
Right,
another
right.
57 in revenue sitting in assets.
Right. It should be part of that. So what it ends up being is you're going to be trending at about 80,
It's going to cost us about 85.
About
It's gonna-
85,000 for the-
It's going to cost us somewhere between 80 and 90,000. We've got it pegged right around 85,000. I'm saying there's a range because
Right, yeah.
there's going to be some drop off in permit fees requested in November and December. There's just less activity there.
Right.
But if there's less activity, there's less expense because we're getting charged only for what's being done. There's not a guaranteed amount that goes to that function unless there's work being done. It's a fee for service.
Well, these are the revenues for the
Right.
permits. So
Correct.
why is this, why are we
Because for
still-
years they
Can I
haven't
ask-
been there.
Can I please ask my question? We have 35,000 for 2018, and it still is 35,000 for 2019, and yet we haven't even hit 3,000 in one of these. So why are we still in 2019 projecting that we're going to bring in 35,000 if we haven't even hit 3,000?
These numbers are going to have to be adjusted by this number in the front that has to be moved over there.
Correct.
Scott knows that. He's going to have to move that over and change that. These numbers aren't going to be the same.
Well, that's a big difference. That's not just a couple thousand, that's $32,000.
Because the revenue is being held in assets, you're not adding the asset revenue.
$54,093.69.
It needs to increase, it doesn't need to decrease.
That part in that parentheses is revenue.
Yes.
So we have that marked, and that's something that Scott would have to correct,
And it's something they've been doing that way for many, many years.
right? The way they have it divided up.
So are we just totally abandoning the idea of having this rental property, the property rental for the $45,200 revenue? Are we just abandoning that?
Well, that's something that, again, wasn't overstated on revenue because it was put in there before it was ever implemented. So that's where you get another that
Well, that's not,
overstated revenues. But with that said, I'd like to be able to do that, except that we all know that it's going to cost to get that implemented. So.
yes, but that's, I mean, we passed an ordinance to do that.
Exactly,
So that's why it's in the budget.
right.
I mean, this isn't just
But he's
something that
not-
came in from the air to,
But he's not projecting that into 2019 because we don't have that implemented in place yet. So we're not going to count it as a revenue again and be short on our revenues.
but we passed an ordinance to do that. So are we just abandoning that?
We're not. We have to put it in place, but we got to find the revenue, correct? So you show me where the revenue is going to be to do that, and I'll be more than happy to do that. I'd like to do that.
Well, that's why I think that we should have an in-house code enforcement officer, because then we would have that revenue.
You-
There's
we
no
had
way
it.
we're going to
We'd be
get
able
this
to pay for
revenue
that.
with a,
We had an in-house code enforcer, and he didn't want to put that in place
we didn't
because
pass
he didn't know
that
how to.
ordinance until like
Yes, we did.
October.
No, we did, but he would have had to also get that information and log that information.
Right.
And he didn't, so you still have to pay to get that
He was
done.
gone by then. This was in October that we passed this
I'm
ordinance.
saying we just have to pay to get that done. We have to actually collect that information.
There's no way we're ever going to be able to
You want to
afford
put
to
that
pay
revenue
that.
in? Because I'll mark it down. Would
I
you
want
like
to put that
it?
revenue in if we're going to hire an in-house
That
code
revenue in.
enforcement officer.
Let's put that in. 42,200 revenue, 2019. We'll tell them to put that in.
All right, so let me do this.
That's not going to, no, don't do that. I'm asking a question because these conversations are all happening outside of my ears. So that was my question as to whether,
What
because it was
conversation?
eliminated from the 2019 budget, and that's my question. And that's why I don't understand why Scott's not here to answer these
Because
questions.
it's not in place.
But it is in place. We passed the ordinance.
How much would we be spending on an in-house code enforcer with benefits? Anyone want to give that a shot?
I think
9,000?
it'll be less than 156,000, which is what we're budgeted for the
No,
code
actually,
enforcement
our
officer.
former manager was going to put two positions in, $60,000 apiece, plus the benefits would have been $30,000
Okay,
apiece.
first of all, I don't
And
recall that
still-
ever being
And still
discussed.
was
use
discussed.
a third-party company at another $50,000 for the UCCs.
That was never discussed. Again, that must have been a meeting that I wasn't at, because that never happened in front of me.
My understanding is we're looking at one person for about 50,000.
50,000 plus.
Not for what this
benefits.
company's doing.
This company isn't here full-time. They can't be here full-time.
So one person, 50,000 plus benefits, so we're talking 75,000. And that would be admin.
Code.
Now, do you envision that person doing the UCC stuff too, or just code enforcement
I
and
would-
zoning?
That should be, what you're asking, this is a wish list? My wish list is to give that person, yes, the person would do the UCC. We wouldn't ever farm any of that out. So it would have to be more. But again, all that would be in-house. We wouldn't have to pay for any of that. and we would get all of those revenues.
We still pay for salaries.
Yes, exactly, but it's all part of that. All the admin is all part of that. And this is what I was trying to say last year. It was pointless to pass this ordinance if we were going to have an outsourced code enforcement officer, because that's admin that we could never recoup. And it would be thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. That's all administrative work. And he sat here and he said that like 3 or 4 months ago.
For what we're actually putting out is actually less than we would be spending for that person that you're talking about, with everything that we
But
got
they're not-
done, including our zoning and all that. It's
But they're
all the
not
same
here
company.
full-time. In fact, it's dwindled down because we can't even afford to pay them anymore. They're not here full-time.
Not true.
They're not here full-time. That is true.
Justin, can you give the hours monthly that we're have usage of Keystone, please?
I have it broken down. UCC, we have averaged 34 and a half hours a week. Code enforcement, an average of 10 hours a week. Zoning, an average of almost 12 hours per week.
Okay.
Administrative, about 3.7 hours per week. And fire marshal, just under 2 hours per week,
Okay.
which is the full-time equivalent of 1.43 people based on 40-hour work week.
That's not what we're getting. We're getting certain hours in that breakdown.
What did you think our code enforcement guy was doing when he was here? Because if he
I'm
wasn't
not
standing
here
in
to
the
talk
building.
about the past.
We're
This
talking
is-
about what's
he-
getting
he
covered out of
retired.
the code company and what
He
you're paying.
retired. I was talking about a whole brand-new person. It doesn't even, nobody knew, this whole brand-new person.
So you're saying
That
you
could do
can
it
find
all.
someone that can do the zoning and do all that
Yes.
for $50,000?
No, not for I never said $50,000.
Okay.
But for, again, less than $156,000.
That $156,000 is going to end up being $85,000 after the fees that they generate. You know that, right?
But the full-time person would also generate those fees.
Yes, but they can't, is the first full-time person going to do the permits? Or-
Yes, this is what I'm saying. You know,
Okay, so-
maybe we should just move on from
Maybe we
this.
should, because I don't know where the microphone, but maybe we should, because I don't know of anybody who's capable of doing all UCCs, including electricity, that's gonna do it for less than $150,000. Plus, you're still gonna need that person to do it, right? So you got the person, they're just gonna be doing UCCs then. Who's gonna be doing your code enforcement if that's all they're doing is
You
UCCs?
could do that, you could find a person to do it for less than $156,000. But let's just move on, forget it. It's not gonna happen anyway.
We're still on the revenues. Anybody else? Any questions on that revenue?
So are we leaving this up here as an addition to our budget, or we're adding
add
to
that-
the
add that in.
I
cost?
don't know what this is, and I don't know
I'm
how it's
tracking
gonna
what you
end
guys
up.
are asking.
I'm not gonna have it out there that I wanted to do all this for all that. I don't even know what this is.
Well, that's
Where
just-
is this gonna be going?
That's just showing it's what's in your book for everybody else to say. That's your revenue and that's your expense. That's the variance and the difference.
It's in your paperwork.
All right. Since you know what we have as far as our revenues, I guess we should move on to the expenditures in the general fund. Okay, in the general fund, you want to go line by line on what you think you can cut to make any kind of a difference in this. I guess this is where you're gonna pull from. So the salaries on mayor, council officials, that stays the same.
I have a question on the salaries. Are we eliminating the treasurer's position?
Yes, it was already in there. She's retiring.
Okay, what was in where?
It's been talked about at meetings, I
We've
believe,
talked about it at several meetings.
several meetings.
Council meetings?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I don't, again,
Yes.
I don't recall that ever being discussed at a council meeting.
Yes.
It's actually in, I'll pull up the minutes. But go on.
Well, who is going to be taking over? Is that going to be our finance director, is going to be our treasurer?
Yes,
I believe.
yes,
And we're eliminating the assistant treasurer's position?
yes.
You know, they're stipend in, they're actually on the MMA.
No, but again, these are just things that haven't been discussed. So I'm just,
Well, this is your time to discuss it, so if you want to keep that in, or you want to
I
talk to
don't
Scott
want to
about
keep it in. I'm just trying to figure out what is going on.
This was talked about. I don't know if you weren't at one of those meetings, but we did.
I've been
we
at
did
every
talk
single
about
agenda
this.
and council meeting.
Okay. So tax collector salary stays the same. Postage is increasing year over year. I mean, there may be a little bit there. It's set up for $1,650. Maybe that's a little high. Maybe it should be 1,100. Anybody interested in lowering that a few $100, or is that not what we're here to do?
Yeah, I don't know if you can. You can if you want, but I don't know it's going to make that much of a difference since that's going up every year.
It's actually
All right.
going to have an increase pretty soon.
It's what?
They're actually they're proposing an increase.
Okay.
On the postage again?
That could be, yeah, that makes sense then. The manager's salary is actually half of our manager and half of our finance director.
Is in that line?
It's the administrative portion of what they earn. Assistant manager salary is still a zero. Borough secretary goes up 3% year over year to $981. Code enforcer salary is going from the $33,000 that it was paid in 2018, and it's coming out of there. So there will be no budget for that this year. Clerical salaries are increasing by 10.6%. From $62,111 to $68,729. Anybody have a concern or issue with that?
Contractual.
What's that?
It's contractual.
We get a 10% increase contractually?
No.
Oh, wait, this thing is.
It should be 3%.
3%, right?
So there's an amount that should be coming out of that. Okay. MMA vouchers for $3,000. Looks like in the past, it's been $2,800, $2,100, $3,100, so it ebbs and flows a little bit, but $3,000 sounds like about the right area that it should end up. Code enforcement expense is, yes, $156,000. Understand, for everyone's knowledge, that's code enforcement, that's UCCs, that's permits, that's zoning, that's, and that's UNOs. That's a lot of jobs being done.
Fire marshal included in that?
Fire marshal's included with that as well. Fire marshal's a very small amount of hours, though, per year.
Yeah, I have some businesses that haven't been inspected, so.
Yep. Yeah,
It's gonna mention
that's,
that.
yeah, that's something that we'll look to ramp up.
Okay.
Social Security, there's really nothing we can do with that. It's a 3% increase year after year. Codification of ordinances, we're looking to keep it static to the 2018 budget. We are doing a lot more than in past years. We're spending a little bit more, I think, but we're going to keep it static to where it's been last year.
You want to keep that at 5,500?
We've been, yeah.
I
we've
think
been-
so.
And we've been changing a lot of the ordinances, amending almost every time you do that, you have to pay to put them in and recodify them.
Advertise.
Then legal fees, we're going from a $30,000 budget in 2018 to a $50,000 budget in 2019. Year to date, we're at $43,000.
Yeah, it was actually rather low. 30,000 was actually rather low
Yeah,
for that.
I mean, we've had years where it's 35,000, where it's under 30. This year, it's a little higher.
Why would you think that was low when in 16 and 17, we didn't hit 30,000?
Well,
weren't doing
it
anything.
really is. I mean, it wasn't out of the question, that we ended up using it more. But I mean, if you want to have him lower that, we'll tell him to lower it. This is your chance to give your recommendation to him. Would you rather lower it?
I would rather keep it at 30. I don't know why it went up to 43.
That's actually year to date. It went up.
Yeah, I know.
So you're saying bring it down by $20,000? Would you say $20,000, right? Okay. Legal advertisements, raising that
Actually, it's been running at 5,000 each year.
Yep. It's been the static amount that's been budgeted. Postage, we're carrying that over, same as for last year. Office supplies, same thing, no change in budget.
Very little.
Website design, there is an increase.
Yeah.
Why is that such a big jump?
Some add-ons to the system that are being proposed. That's kind of a wish list item.
I mean, if we could cut that, or is that something that you're talking about to pay online? Is that something the MMA could kick in for that? You can already pay online for the MMA, can't you?
Yeah, they have their own separate website.
That's a lot. I mean, what did we spend $4,000 on?
So what would we like to lower that to?
Well, it's been, 2,000. I still don't, I mean, year-to-date this year is almost $4,000. Does anybody know what that was?
Yeah, we updated the website a lot this year. We added the public portal. We added all kinds of neat gadgets and news and information. It costs to update those things.
Yeah, there's all kinds of links on there you can link on.
So we're
to
saying to
report
reduce it by
stuff.
$7,000?
I'd say cut it in half.
Cut it in half to 5.
Okay. All right. Office computer system upgrade, that's static from the prior year. What's this? Liability insurance, really nothing much we can do with that. Looks like it's going down, though.
That's gone down significantly.
Yep. So the workman's comp is something that I picked out and spoke to Scott, and it's actually, you guys will notice, it's a combination of that and pension payments, which was 145. So for some reason it got, and this won't be in the final budget, it will be corrected, but it's actually a combination of the two.
So this is comp and pension together
Yes.
out of that line?
Yes, and that's what they're anticipating for the two. So it's a reduction in what the payments are supposed to be, and that's a quick, the fast and the quick.
Okay. So it's
So-
plus.
You're talking about the 147.68, right?
Yeah,
Yes, because I thought it was a typo, thinking it was supposed to be 1,400. And the offset is the pensions that are usually in there for 145, but he doesn't expect it to be 145 in 2019.
so that's going to be fixed, right?
Yes.
Let me get the next one.
Payment of bonds. It's $1,000. You got hospitalization going up 11.5% from 115 to 128.
Is that actually is that our health care for the borough employees? Is that? Has there been any attempt to put out any bids to combine the police department, MMA, and borough under one healthcare umbrella?
I don't know that they could do that with the MMA because it's separated. That's a good question for Scott. I know he's been trying to negotiate. We got an email the other day in reference to a change for 2019 from an insurance perspective. So clearly the conversations are being had, whether there's a combination conversation, I'll call it. I wouldn't be able to tell you that.
I would think, well, at least I'm sorry, go ahead.
Each contract negotiates its own healthcare plan with that, I believe. I believe the police was separate from the borough workers.
Right, well, I would think, given the financial constraints that we're under, making an attempt to combine both the police and the borough and try to, get a discount for, more employees under the same umbrella would make sense.
Yeah, if we can do it based on the contract, if there's differences
Well, I would think,
in the offering.
Yeah, I mean, I know most unions, when they're faced with, in situations with budget constraints like this, they're sometimes flexible to, make those changes. So,
I can't speak to that. Okay. Can you put that as a follow-up, please? Yeah, to ask about combining all.
okay.
That's why we have our note taker. She's gonna give us the feedback on the takeaways and
Great.
so we have the questions. All right. Employee life insurance, that's going up 11.5% to $1,338. We have state and county associations. These are trainings, I believe. Is that correct?
That's
Debbie?
like the Boroughs Association,
Yep.
we pay this stuff for and all that kind of junk. Our fees.
That's actually going down from 13,800 to 12,000. Contributions is staying static. These are things we contribute to, like the senior center in some cases and items like that, I believe.
Yep.
So that's staying static from the prior year. Engineering services from 35,000 to 50,000. We had major overspend this year at 153,000. But we don't expect to see that next year.
And I will say to that also, part of the engineering amount that got paid was also paid, like, if it was anything to do with development, some of the stuff was paid out of escrow accounts, whether they had to do work for Britain or Passy or any of those things. And when they did the work on the ramping, that's out of the grant, it's also in an escrow account, so it's all kind of combined all there.
It's not all out of tax
Right,
dollars.
it's out of different areas also.
Is the borough going to apply for any grants on its own in 2019, or are we sticking with the engineer?
The only ones that I know of actually are the ones that are already in place, that there's, I think, two of them, that maybe three tops that are being resubmitted back in, because they're already written up.
The 3 grants that Scott talked about for 2019, those are 3 grants that we've already applied for and didn't get?
No.
I think the one that was separate was the one for improvements on Borough Hall. He was trying to get
yeah.
that one in, I believe.
I
this
believe he was
coming year.
saying that we should limit it to 3 next year that we haven't already applied for.
Yeah, and I think one of them was to get upgrades.
That was his
on the-
recommendation.
On the Borough Hall. Yeah.
But he just, during the meeting, he just said 3. He didn't specify whether or not he meant 3 specific ones or just keep it
Yeah, I
at
haven't-
3.
The
You
other
may have
one-
some in mind,
The other one is, I believe, to resubmit the one for the levy. Because that was, we were told to actually resubmit that when they asked us to pull that back. Would be the third one, there's a third one.
But these are all ones that the engineer's going to have to work on. They're not,
There is working on, yeah. 2 are already in place, and the other one is the one for the building itself.
can we keep it at 35? Because we went over budget, over $120,000 in this line.
Well, we went over budget in, well, let's see. You're saying 53 is a bad number. 2015 was 53,000. 2016 was 52,000. 2017 was 47,000.
Where are you looking?
I'm looking, am I looking at the wrong line? Hold on. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong line. I could be, oh, no, I'm on the wrong line. My mistake. Hold on. You're right. Yeah, it's usually fluctuating around 32 to 38,000.
Right, and we spent
My mistake. It's on the wrong line.
$154,000 this year.
And the other thing I'm going to say about that also is if you look the amount of money that was also brought in, it really outweighs that, especially when part of that was being paid for by the grants. I mean, you've gotten quite a bit of money in.
Well, I mean, grants aren't really free money. We're either paying the engineer and the solicitor and or
Some
the
of those-
solicitor, or we have to have a match.
Some of those grants did not have a match. CDBG did not have a match.
Right.
We got quite a few of those, so they weren't a match. So
We'll
you
just,
gotta have an extra pot of money someplace to get any kind of development done in your town. Where are you gonna get that from? That's just my personal opinion about it, but.
well, we're talking about priorities here, and, I mean, the public is here to talk about, there's a safety concern. So I would think that if we spent a year going over budget on a line, over $100,000, that we could pull it back for 2019 and at least stick with the 35,000. Because,
But those revenues wouldn't come out of the same areas. You know that, right?
what do you mean by revenue?
Well, so you know your revenue lines, right? And there are specific revenue lines that, like, for instance, the real estate taxes, which, the police department can pull from, traffic fines, state police fines, parking fines. Then you have a bunch of stuff that's admin oriented to run the borough with, right? So are you suggesting we pull like MMA money and put it towards something else? Or I guess I'm confused, because if we know what our revenues are, right? And we have our anticipated revenues, are we talking about pulling money from other revenues to cover other expenses that they're really not intended to cover?
That's not what she said.
That's not.
No, that's what I'm
Can
asking.
you-
That's not what she
That's what I'm
said.
asking.
This is really strange that you're up there, but I'm saying that
He's got it on the computer.
we have blown this budget by $120,000, and I'm asking if we can pull it back 15,000 to stay within the $35,000 budget. The 2018 budgeted $35,000, and we spent $154,000. So again, what priorities are we showing our residents?
Okay, the grants that you applied for equaled 1,461,850, and you spent 149,60 for the borough match. That's what you spent for this year, and that was Williams Playground Phase 2, master plan, the flood protection and the levee,
Which we didn't get,
right, which they want us to reapply
resubmit,
for.
right?
And then the signage replacement, the borough traffic signals upgrade, summer seat improvement.
Right, but none of that stuff really is an emergency, and we didn't stay within the budget. So I feel like you're basically saying, well, we wanted it, so we went after it, and we got some money, so it's okay. So I'm asking if we can be a little bit more frugal with the engineer going into 2019.
So 15,000 is what you're asking for, right?
You want to change to 35?
On the board.
Yes.
Wait, you want to drop it down to $15,000 for engineering?
No, drop it by 15.
35.
Oh, keep it at 35, okay. You had 15,000 up there, sorry.
I mean, I don't, whether or not we're gonna stay at the 35, I have no idea, because we didn't let this year. But at the very least, we should cut where we can.
That would be everywhere.
Well. Again,
All
we have to show the residents where our priorities are.
You still have 2 grants that are in progress.
Yeah, but those are for projects.
This is for the borough traffic signal upgrade and replacement. That's still in progress. We haven't heard anything about that, and that's a 20% match.
And that's because none of our traffic signals are adaptable for, what do you call them?
Generators?
Not generators.
And I believe that's for emergency services to be able to get through quicker? Is that the same?
Yeah, none of the lights are adapted in order to put those, power.
I might be wrong about that.
During the storms.
All right. All right, so we are on to fire relief. There's nothing we can touch there. That is what it is. Then we have miscellaneous dollars for $8,000. And it looks like last year we had in there for 60 or 76. We're at 59, 76 the prior year, 76. So if you guys want to cut this by $400, $325, we can certainly do that.
What do we cut it back to?
We are
Back to
on,
7675.
is that what we want to do?
No, just leave
Okay,
it
we're just gonna leave it.
$325.
That's what I felt like. Okay, good. All right, so then we're down to audit expense for $12,000. That looks like an increase. Debbie, have you spoken to Scott on the increase on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be a follow-up for us is what's the anticipated increase in the audit expense?
Basically why it doubled? Right, is that what you mean?
Well, it's going from 8,800 to 12,000.
Well, it was budgeted for 6,000.
Yep, and it overspent in 2017 to 7,000. So it's,
You overspent in 18 at 8,800.
so it's, there's clearly some additional auditing he'd like to have done to some extent. Now, the pensions we already talked about, that's in the wrong line item, that'll be corrected. And then we have the CCTV.
Just that booth.
I think there's some updates that need to be done to that.
Drop back down to 4.
All right. All right, so anything else that needed to be spoken about in the administrative expenditures?
The last line?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Yes, that's got to come out. There's no way that we have $456,000 to put towards contingency reserve, although we need a contingency reserve. I think it should be closer to 20 grand. Sorry.
Well, why can't we keep that at 10,000?
We could. That was my recommendation.
So
I have
is
them
this
too.
456,000, not just a typo?
No,
Yeah, that's a wish.
no, that's what he's saying we should have as a borough, and he's not wrong. He's saying we should have a contingency fund.
10% of the budget.
Yeah, 10% of budget, it's a wish list item, but yeah. So we're taking that out. We're making it, do we want to do 10,000? Do we want to do
So-
20,000?
Just so I understand, this 456, is that part of the variance?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so we just dropped it by $500,000?
Yeah.
Okay, good,
Oh, no, we knew that.
okay,
If you, I mean, if you looked at the budget,
right.
it's pretty obvious that that's not something that, I mean, I'm not approving that. we don't have the money, right?
Right.
Right.
All right, so what are we going to have the contingency reserve at?
Never assume.
I think 20 grand is a good start.
Assume somebody knows what you're thinking.
Well, we're not even hitting that though, so, I mean, we keep it at 10.
Not the end of the year.
Anybody else have an opinion?
But I'd say we're not hitting it, but it's a contingency. It's there for the unexpected.
Sure. It's wise to have.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I get
I
it.
mean,
I get that.
I'd be fine with, split the difference between what Corinne wants at 10 grand and 20
Fair
or
enough.
15. So ways more we can come back and cut if we need to.
Absolutely. Justin, what does that make the amount we're reducing by?
I have no idea.
You do the math, 400 and what? If we're keeping it at
456,
15.
526.
So it's 436.
436? So we're gonna put it down to 436.
I don't have the numbers.
Not 436.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're cutting 436 out of it. We're going
Yeah,
down to 20.
20,
Oh, yeah.
20K will be the,
We're gonna keep it at 20?
We're going to
I
do
don't have it in front of me. Somebody
15.
wanna read that off to me?
That's, we're,
I thought we agreed on
I went to law
20.
school, so I didn't have to do math.
56,
You don't get out of math.
26.
You went to law school, you got a bill.
Can you-
You got to
can
know
you-
math like the back of your hand.
Exactly, that shows you how bad I am at math.
I don't have it.
441.
So it's the amount
41.
minus
Yeah.
15,000.
441,
441.
526.
I don't have it in front of me.
441,
yeah,
Thank you.
526,
526.
Coming out.
yeah, I guess, I'll clarify.
Yep.
So Mike, that's what we're taking off.
These are the amounts we're taking off, except for the one in red.
Okay.
The recommendation was to add.
Okay.
Okay. All right, any other questions on that part of the general fund?
That's just administrative expenses.
That's just administrative.
So now we got 1, 3, 6, 4.
Okay?
Are there plans to make big changes to this building?
Needs a lot of work.
Anybody?
I think there's a wish list like there was last year, yeah. I think the bathrooms need to be updated. If you've been in them lately, they're pretty bad.
Yeah, I think last
They're
year's
clean,
administration had
But they need to be
72,000 in there.
upgraded at minimum.
All right, so your total administrative expenses for projected for 2019, I got 882,779. Did you get that?
Oh, that's everything you took off of that?
Everything in black over there that I took off of the projected 1.3.
882,779?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
What was it, 8?
882,779.
And 21 cents. Can't forget that,
Don't
21
forget that
cents.
21 cents.
All right, so the next section would be public property. Labor for public properties is up 3%, which aligns with the raises. The maintenance man salary is taken out for this year. The municipal electric is up versus last year, but I think he's expecting that to be the case. I don't see why a difference from 5,200 to $6,000 would make a big difference to him, but certainly he's expecting that to go up in rates. Telephone calls, he's expecting that to be increased. I think that might be a little high, but if we're talking about pulling 2,000 out of that on him, we can probably do that.
Can we cut that a little bit? I mean,
What's that?
we cut that a little bit? I mean, that's a big jump.
Sure.
Telephone?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be what it's going to be, right?
Well, it
If you
depends if
wanna-
he includes upgrades to the telephone
That's
system.
correct.
Is that what he's doing? Okay. All right.
You don't want to do that?
No.
All right.
I didn't
So that
realize he
will-
was,
that will be
I
any
didn't realize he was
maintenance,
doing
anything out of
upgrades
that.
for the telephone.
I don't know that it is, but I can only assume that big of a jump, he's got something planned.
I mean, the maintenance and supplies in the next line, that's,
That's clearly a specific amount that he's looking to make a change with. Deb, did you have any discussion with him about that?
Sure, I can ask her
So
for that.
Audrey, if you could put in building maintenance and supplies, 436% increase, ask.
Is this that janitorial service?
No,
No.
no,
No.
building maintenance and supplies.
And that could be the answer, Corinne, that could be. Building repairs and improvements, this is what you were asking about, $45,000 versus the 2018 budget of $72,440. Yes, there were some upgrades he was talking about wanting to do. They are wish list items. If we want to take that out and lower it to an amount that would facilitate just fixing something that breaks, we can certainly do that.
Well, yeah, I think that for now, again, just the situation that we're in, I think if one place we can cut, that could be it.
I think we
Put
should
20?
take 20,000. Well, take 20 off, leave 25.
25?
25.
Yeah.
So taking 20 off of there. Okay.
It's,
12.
says 45,000. That's projected.
How much are we taking out again? 12? or
20.
20.
20.
okay.
It's line 12.
Yeah, I got you.
So we're taking it down to 25K.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's out of public property.
Yeah.
Insurance, you can't
And
touch.
put insurance, you can't really do anything about.
So building insurance is what it is. Outside tree maintenance, we're keeping it same as last year, or do we want to do something different with that?
I would keep it the same only because of, we have that, what is that, the spotted lantern?
The lantern flies.
Yeah,
It's also, with the amount of bad storms we've had.
yeah.
and
I would keep
It's
it
not just
there.
actually the trees, it's the cleanup of the trees.
Okay. Tree maintenance, keeping that at 12,000 as well. That's general tree maintenance. And tree labor is coming up 3% to align with salaries. And just to point out, even without the change that we made, this budget area was down 22% over year. So there was already deductions in this previously, and that'll make it even lower. So we're probably going to come in somewhere around 60% of versus last year in budget.
All right, so,
Like, looking at the tree maintenance, though, I have year-to-date through August of $530, and we're putting 12 grand in. I mean, why wouldn't we just
Well-
start off half in that to begin with?
We could. This is one of those areas that I think when there's financial crunch, they go, we're just not going to spend there. Because unless it's an emergency, they won't spend it.
So far, it's just 25K, and we're.
But then you need to look at where people's incomes are coming from. And if you
So
cut it too far back,
20,000 that we took off.
you're not justifying their income, right?
Until we get these checked out.
So in other words, you got 5% coming from here, 5% coming from there, 50% coming from this area. So the breakdown of the salaries that we got for the first time tells you what percentage is coming out of where, right? So this would be one of those areas that a small percentage of people's salaries is coming out of when you're talking about labor.
all right, so now your public property,
But we can, I mean, does anybody else want to do that? We can lower it even more.
Again, it goes back to the condition of the trees in the borough and
Yep,
the potential for bad
Yeah.
winter and
I agree.
spraying.
we do
and-
have
yeah.
quite a few trees that,
And if you go back
Or
to
if they-
16, if you go back to 16, they spent 11,000, so,
Yeah, I think that's when we had the,
there was a lot of money that was spent
we
there.
had those trees.
yeah.
Okay. Brings us to probably what most people are waiting for, police expenditures.
Well, your total public
Oh.
property expenditures should be 142, 492.
Versus 207,840 last year, or this year, that was budgeted.
62,
Yeah.
472.
Well, 162, 492 minus the $20,000
Amendments.
taking off.
Yep.
Would be 142, 492.
Yep,
Yeah, they've taken $20,000 off of there.
Okay, so 25K. That's still not bringing it to that much.
20,000 minus the 162. So I'm just taking the $20,000 off of that. Last year, we were budgeted for 207,840. So this year, it's hopefully, it's 142, 492, 50. Gotta keep that 50 cents.
okay,
That's with taking that 20,000.
yep. So that's a
Okay.
significant drop year over year.
Before we go on to the next section, can we jump back for a second?
Sure.
I just saw a note in my paper here and I want to throw it out there. When we were talking about revenues and prior year's real estate, sometime during the year, we got a proposal from Fort Knox for back taxes, just like the back sanitation. I think it's something we may want to take another look at. The county gets the back revenues in what, 3 years or so? If Fort Knox can do it in faster time, hopefully we could recover more of our revenues.
Well, I think,
Especially if
wasn't the
we're-
reason we turned it down was because the return is actually very high?
It's high in the 90s, yeah.
High 90s
And they're pretty
percentile?
aggressive. So,
So what would I guess what I'm saying, what would the cost? When you already have a high,
With Portnoy, their cost is added into the recovery of the taxes, whereas with the county, they're deducting their cost off of what they would be collecting for the borough.
okay.
So the cost for Portnoy gets added into whatever monies are being collected, whereas we won't be getting that money back.
Okay. Does anybody know what the actual percentage is?
I think it's over 95%.
95%?
It's high.
I'm not 100%
It's
sure.
definitely in the 90s.
I mean,
We could ask.
I'd be interested in looking in to see what the net benefit would be.
Could ask.
Yeah, right? Yes.
Okay,
So you want to know what the percentage fee is for Portnoy to collect compared to the borough
Right. since
or
it's a
the county?
County, right? Yeah.
all right. You guys ready to move on? Okay, so the first line item is the chief's salary. That goes up 3% based on his contract. Nothing we can do there. We have police officers' full-time salaries set at $913,323, which is a 14.38% increase.
Why is that? There's 3% increases on their contract, right?
Well, I mean, in general, increases are usually anywhere from nothing to 5% typically. That's where this ends up, nobody knows really, but,
That should be cut.
What do you mean where it ends up, nobody knows?
well, it's still in negotiation, right? So it's not something that we know.
For the 1 year, yeah, I mean,
Right.
you wouldn't go more
So
than
this
5%.
is-
I would agree with that.
So this 913, that's the highest. So is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying what it is.
That's 14%
It's
increase.
It's a 14%.
38% increase year over year.
Now, keep in mind, we hired a position this year that may or may not have been budgeted for last year.
Correct.
So if we're sick, all right, so it's a 14 point what? 2%,
0.38%.
0.38% increase in salary?
All right, we ready to move on?
We didn't create it.
It's ridiculously high.
All right, overtime pay going from 35,000 to 40,600, that's a 16% increase.
Is that the same thing, though? That's like the previous, that there's no way to know that yet, right?
Not unless you asked.
Well, what does that mean?
Do we, kn-
I mean, the only way you can know is this means I'm not trying to argue. I'm saying if you asked, you could know. If you had a concern with it and you asked, you can find out.
Well, that's what this is.
That's what this is.
This
No,
is
this
why
is
we're
going line by,
before the
you
public.
guys asked to go line by line, which is what we're doing.
Yes,
Why
and
can't-
you're not answering my question. Apparently,
Okay.
you are the MC of the budget meeting, so I'm asking you. Is this not the true figure, like the previous figure?
Bring that down a
It's
ton.
not the police
Yelling at you.
department.
All right, I have a question.
Okay, well, my question wasn't answered yet. So is this 40,600 the same as the 913? That's not a real number? That's the highest of the high?
What the chief gave us.
It's what we're given, so I'm assuming it's a real number.
So,
Look at that.
well,
So these figures came from the police chief?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Would you like us to follow up to ask why the increase?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Can you
he's
put on-
here. I don't know if we can have it like previous years where he can actually be a part of this conversation. I feel
doing
it's
things
very
a little-
strange that he's in the back of the room when we're talking about him like he's not even here.
If you'd like to invite him up, he can go over all these figures.
Sure.
Come on up, chief, if you're willing.
Look, anytime, it'd be really nice to have the chief involved in this.
I think it's imperative. Thank you.
Why you didn't have the street guy involved in his budget?
Because it's administrative, he's already sat down with Scott.
Where's the borough manager?
We have a lot of questions that need to be asked.
Yeah, let me move that for you, chief.
I'm good, thank you.
Get out of your way.
But just please remember, this was a wish budget.
Right.
Everybody remember that. So there is cuts to be made in this.
all right, can you let us know why there's a 14% increase in your salaries for full-time officers?
Your MC was wrong. We have step increases. So we have officers going from, say, 48,000 up to 88,000. Because their last year, their budget, last year, their step is
Okay.
the biggest of their 3 steps. So there's a huge jump there.
It's like a progression.
Yes, there's a 3-step.
Oh, so your one that was 2 years going to 3 years has that jump. I remember that in the contract.
Okay, and there's also, what we talked about, we have a new officer. So that's now, that's all it is. There isn't, we're not getting 14% increases. You know, we're figuring 3%.
So is that 913, is that a realistic number? Is there any room in that?
No,
Okay.
that's
So that's, okay,
that's solid contractual.
all right.
Now, you went into the overtime, it's 16% over last year, is because we were already at, if I remember right, we're already like at 75% for this year.
For overtime?
Yes.
Right now, you're at 82%.
82%.
Right, there you go. And I should be, if we're, we should be, what, 75% at this point?
Yes, you're over.
Yeah, so we're over on that.
What's the overtime for? Is that for covering shifts if somebody calls out? Okay.
Now, with the 412s, is there, is the overtime a weekly thing? And how does Kelly time affect the coverage and cost?
I'm sorry, what was the first part?
I said with the 12-hour shifts, that's what we have, 12-hour shifts, right?
Correct.
If somebody's working 4 on, 4 off, it's 8 hours overtime or Kelly time each week they work, correct?
It's 4 on, 3 off, 3 on, 4 off. They get 4 hours Kelly time, which equals to 6 hours, because it's time and a half. So yes, they get so much Kelly time per year that they get front-loaded, and they use that as the year goes on. So yes, the Kelly time is an expense that is in the contract that is a problem. But
So
it's-
the 412s comes out to 4 hours overtime and 4 hours Kelly time? Is that what I'm just asking because
No, they're not getting any overtime.
Okay.
They're getting comp time, basically.
Gotcha.
So they're working a longer shift and getting comp time for it.
But they
which
can only
then-
get I'm sorry.
Which then has to be covered by either a part-time officer later on or another full-time officer.
Gotcha.
They get to use it, and they can't carry that Kelly time over from year to year.
Right.
They cannot.
They only 48 hours of it.
Okay, and that comp
No.
time,
It's in the contract that way.
48 hours
48 hours they can carry over year to year.
of Kelly time?
It's Kelly time. That's what we looked at, right, Justin?
I remember seeing that.
I don't remember that either.
Hold on.
Okay.
Maybe
My mistake. Go on. I'm sorry.
regular vacation time.
so the comp time, that's all straight time.
No, they get time and a half for it.
Oh, they get
So they
time.
earn time and a half for it, but they don't get paid for it.
So it's not dollars of time and a half, it's time and a half of time.
Correct.
Okay.
Which then you have to cover it. And hopefully you're covering it as a part-timer for that.
So if somebody has, say, 40 hours of Kelly time and they take a week off for Kelly time, they got paid straight time when they were working the Kelly time hours, correct?
Yes.
They get paid for, like, vacation days for Kelly time. They get paid full for those 40 hours, correct? Plus, we have to pay somebody to cover those 40 hours, correct?
Just like if they work they work comp time. It's the same thing, yes.
Yeah.
Their comp time is time and a half, just like it would be for overtime. This was something that was in a contract 2 years ago that they negotiated up to time and a half.
Yep. So they're not getting straight pay for Kelly time, they're getting time and a half and the time off. Okay, that's.
No.
No, okay, yeah, I didn't think so, that's
What
what it sounded
are you
like, though.
trying to say here? I'm trying to miss when they work, rather than getting paid for the Kelly time, they're getting time off.
They're getting paid for the time that they work, right?
Right.
And they're getting paid time off as well.
Just like if you earn vacation time.
Right.
So what is your point, Councilman?
No, I'm just trying to clarify. So the point would be with Kelly time, just to make sure everybody's clear on what that program is. If I've got 40 hours Kelly time, I've worked straight time for those 40 hours and gotten paid for it. I get 40 hours off, plus we have to pay somebody to cover those 40 hours that I'm not in for. I'm just trying to make sure everybody's aware of the impact that has on the budget from a budgetary perspective. That's all I'm saying.
Just like earn vacation time.
Right.
Or earn sick time.
Sure.
Yes. Just like they get a sick day, they get paid for being sick.
Sure.
And we still got to cover that.
Yep.
Yes, that's the contract.
Yep.
All right, educational incentive? What is that for?
It's in the contract. If they have degrees, they get paid extra. And it's going
Nothing
up
was-
this year because we hired Gary, who has a bachelor's degree.
Okay, because I noticed last year, well, for this year so far, there's nothing in there.
Right, that hasn't been taken out yet.
Okay.
That will be paid out before the end of the year.
All right, longevity pay, can't touch. Overtime for training,
Is that mandatory training?
Most of the time, yes. I'd say 95% of it is.
Which was going to be my next question on any other categories of training that can be reduced to zero that are not mandatory.
All our mandatory is done in-house,
Okay,
and that's all pay.
okay,
Everything besides that, if the guys go for if they go for a training elsewhere, an outside training, 99% of the time they take comp time, or it's on their days that they're working. I still got to cover them.
right.
Also, anytime I hire a new officer, I put the training, they have to double up in the cars and do the training. That also gets added up into the training budget.
Is there any training in here that's not mandated that can be eliminated, is what I'm asking? I mean,
You can eliminate all our training that we go to outside training. We go to a lot of very, very good training
Right.
that is well above the 12 hours mandatory training that the MPO makes us do.
right,
But
That's-
just like anything else, training is key.
it's important, I
Keep
understand.
yourself out of federal court.
Right, and I'm not suggesting that the line item be completely removed, but given the budget constraints that we have this year, one year, foregoing 1 year,
But you're not going to go 1 year. Okay.
Once it's gone.
well, at least
Once
cut
this-
it back
once this-
from the
once this
30 to
slippery-
the 20.
And honestly, what
Once
would
this
the
slippery
date-
slope starts, we're going to be in the same financial situation next year. And we're just going to continue doing this. So you're going to cut it this year, going to cut it, it's going to continue until we have nothing left. But training is, huge. And police, fire, EMS, that's the basics of what we do. And it's very hard to cut that out. There's so much training, and there's so much training we go for free. Our online training, when I first got here, those guys used to have to go up to Doylestown. They get paid overtime for it.
right,
Now it's all online. They do it while they're working. That cut out probably $10,000 out of the training budget 5 years ago.
okay.
But unfortunately, going to the range, CPR, first aid, taser training, that's all on, most of it's overtime because I got to bring them in here. Guys working midnights, guys working their days off. I can't strip the street to bring them in here to train.
Do we
So-
host any training here? Do we have the capacity to do that?
We hosted something last year, but that doesn't get you anything. You might get your free slot in a training spot, but it's,
Reduces your travel time.
yeah, but we do a lot of our own training, except for the other stuff. But we look for so much free training, and we do get it. But, well, if you're sending the guy on the day he's working, you're covering his spot on the street, and that costs you, I won't put a full-time guy ever in a spot like that. That's cost me $70 an hour. That's always a part-time guy.
So with the non-mandated training, not only are we paying the officer to go to the training, but we have to pay somebody to cover his
street, yeah.
his shift.
Yeah.
So that's why I was suggesting there's another component to the training cost here that we're not seeing in the training category. In other words, when you put in the budget for training, it's just for the cost of the officer to go for that training. Are you calculating in the cost of the officer to cover his shift? Is that put under your payroll?
Yes. No, that goes in the training.
That is calculated in the training also, okay.
And that's a best guess, Dave, because I don't know what training's going to come up in 6 months. New training comes in, the guys work with me with that. They try to, work as best they can, that they're not, hurting it, but because they know how important training is. I mean, this year we have somebody on the SWAT team, or actually we did that last year. Never had that here.
Okay.
Now he goes for training at least once a month. So if he's working, I have to cover him on the street. If he doesn't work, he doesn't take overtime, he takes comp time. I still got to cover him on the street at some point, but he's not taking overtime to go to SWAT training because he wants to be there and it's good for us.
Right. Okay.
All right, moving on.
Time, sorry, go ahead.
Part-time officers, 122,000, same as budgeted for 2018.
You skipped the police overtime reimbursement.
Well, that's an in and out account.
Well, and yeah, that's in and out. And I had that discussion last year, and there's really, it should match the in. It doesn't, it needs to either match the in or they both need to be zeroed out because whatever comes in is going to go right into the pocket of somebody else. It doesn't affect our budget whatsoever. So then on to the part-time police, 122,000 budgeted, same as 2018. Ready to move on?
Part-time police was, okay, wait, hold on. He's at 57% for that. So we still have 2 more officers left to go, right, to hire? To cover that?
There's 2 positions open.
Yeah, good luck. I just put classifieds out today. Good luck trying to find officers. So that's going to increase my training budget on the other end then, if I'm going to try to bring new guys in. I'm losing one of my officers that I just hired, I'm losing him to Teletown because of the new rule in the 30 hours. And the other guy that worked a lot, he's also signed up for Teletown. So I may be hurting very quickly because of that new rule that was put into effect.
What does it cost to train a new officer in terms of hours and background check and investigation?
All the background stuff is all done by me, so that costs you nothing. Physical cost us, I don't know, a couple $100. Psychological cost is probably $400 or $500. And I try to look to see if they've had a psychological within the last 6 months, and if they do, I'm allowed to use that. So I look to see how that is. Now, when it comes to the training of the person, you should have an FTO with them for 8 weeks. But depending on if the person's coming from another department and they already have a lot of training, that can be cut down depending on how they are. So you're paying them, I think, what do we pay a part-timer, $22 an hour times 8 weeks? Whatever that comes out to.
Did we lose a crossing guard and not replace one?
I don't.
Moving on.
This, and I don't know, I truthfully don't know why this is being increased, but on the notes that I had from Mike, it says done by Virginia and Judy at 3,000. I don't know why it's
We were
going.
looking for one. Did you know if we replaced it? Her-
We have everybody full, the staff is full for
Okay.
crossing guards. We're trying to replace.
Sorry, I jumped to 135.
We're trying to replace substitutes now.
52,000, we went up 10,000.
Yeah, I don't know why that
Right,
went up.
but the year-to-date is less than 30.
Right.
Right.
So I was just,
So why did we go up 10? Why
23%,
can't
why
we?
so much?
Yeah, that can be, I don't know.
So that would be a follow-up.
Or,
Yeah.
well, he said he doesn't need it, so.
What do you feel is needed in for crossing
Is
guards?
a 42 good, or,
I don't, what are we right now? Do you know?
We're at 29 right now,
and you budgeted for 42 for this.
so you're at 71% for your crossing guards right
Right, so
now.
I think I'm good at 42.
okay.
So there's,
Unless there's something in there that I'm missing, and I don't know why Mike has that in there.
I think you mean Scott. Scott?
Micah.
No, Mike.
Oh, Micah.
Oh, you got a special one.
This is, Mike and I sat down and did this, the budget, and he put notes in for it.
All right, police labor special events,
Excuse me?
moving on to the,
139, line 139.
Yeah, they went up a little bit. I mean, I don't have the percentages of where we're at right now.
That's peanuts.
Everything, most of the things are big,
Wash.
you're at 81% right now.
right. So that's why we went up a little bit on that.
$250.
All right.
Winterfest pays for police.
Oh, that's right, they do.
Yeah. I think that's same in, same out too, isn't it? Don't organizations pay for that special events?
Is that what that's
Well, that
for?
wouldn't come out of our budget then, right?
No, special events are like
Like borough.
Halloween.
Okay,
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, when we're paying overtime to guys to work, we're bringing more guys to work.
gotcha.
So that's what that's for.
Okay,
Police clerical,
going up 3%. Then we could look at the police clerical workman's comp, which is only $300, staying static. We have social security going up 3%, which makes sense. Training, PD for mandatory trainings, staying static at 10,000. It looks like we're a little low on that year to date, and we usually come in under that, but I don't have a problem with the 10 grand. Does anybody else have an issue?
It's 34%.
Yeah.
bring
We
it down, or-
have office supplies going up a bit, but they're going up across the board. It's going from 3,000 to 4,000. Anybody have an issue there?
it's at 51% right now.
Yeah, and it might be a little high, but again, if it's one of those line items that if it's not needed, it doesn't get spent. And it's not really going to move the needle for where we need to be. Forensic and incidental supplies, is that right? Yeah. Going from 4,000 to 4,000, staying static. We've got enforcement equipment, staying static at $12,000 year over year. We're at 11,182 now. It's probably about right.
92%.
Then we have miscellaneous. We usually fall somewhere between 2,300 and 4,200. We have it set at 6,600. That may be a little high. It's a 220% jump. Any concerns there?
drop that 1,600.
The reason why
For which one?
Miscellaneous.
Miscellaneous.
Just on miscellaneous, okay.
I'm being hit $300 a month for cleaning.
Okay.
Times 12 is $3,600. I think that pretty well covers that.
So that's what the cleaning's coming out of. is
Right, that's why that went up $3,600.
Sounds good. All right, police overtime reimbursement. This is a same in, same out, I believe.
Yes,
Okay, so we'll.
that's
make
where
that
they're, like the Winterfest and things that pay for the parades, the drug marches, that's where that is.
Gas and oil is increased, but
Wow.
that's,
We're
And the reason why was because forever, gas was just split up. ambulance paid this much. It was like quarter. Now Mike is actually doing it to what we actually use.
Okay.
And that's why it's going up the way it's going up.
Jeez.
I was thinking with all the new vehicles, they're more fuel efficient. I was scratching my head trying to figure out.
No, that's all, I mean, because it wasn't fair, that the fire department, obviously, they're not using the same amount as we are.
Right.
And so, but this is,
So it's a truer number.
right, it's an actual true number.
Okay, we got another reimbursement for special events
What is that one
for
for?
police overtime.
It's in and out, I believe.
That's going to be another
that
same in,
the
same
in and
out, I
out?
believe.
Yes,
Yeah, I think
yes.
they pay for the police coverage, the events do.
So there's no impact to the budget there. Then you have officers' uniform expenses staying static year over year at 14,000.
That's contractual.
Then you have legal expenses staying static year over year at 4,000. Looks like we got a little bit of an overspend this year, but again, not enough to change the trajectory here.
But that, just to interrupt you on that, that is not year after year after year,
What?
that $4,000. That started at $20,000.
No, I'm just saying year over year from last year.
Oh, okay, just last year, okay.
All right. Special enforcement equipment.
That's a big jump.
That's a big jump. As we go into the new technology, things are starting to break. We've had body cameras now for 3 years. They got a 3-year shelf life. We're starting to replace those. The computers that are in the car, rather than buying new ones, they've been being refurbished down to Bob Johnson's computer shop in Delaware at $350 a piece, as compared to $2,000 a piece. There's this all has to do with technology. And it's 32,000 is a little rich. Yeah, I can agree with that, but,
Yeah, we're at 7,300 now, year to date.
right.
Would that include new vests as well?
Will that? Yes, that'll include, but the vest will cost you, I want to say $5,000 to do everybody. And that's also coming up this year. We'll get a matching grant for that from the feds, but that'll still cost us. Yeah.
So we could probably drop this by at least 12,000.
I guess you can. I want to make sure there's nothing else in here that
Oh, on the other page.
body cameras, street cameras, yeah. That's where I also was going to put, my last cameras to go up at Trenton and Pennsylvania. That's where that comes from. So,
I'm not comfortable with,
So we moving any out? We leaving it the same?
I'm not comfortable with it. Especially since I just purchased a monitor for our MTDs because we can't get them anymore. So
the what?
I had to personally purchase an MTD monitor because we couldn't get them anymore.
For what?
For our MTDs in the,
Oh, okay.
How much was that?
$32 on eBay.
So are we dropping that down?
I wouldn't, to be honest with you.
Okay. Moving on.
So we should know.
Community relations, we have for $1,000. That's same year over year.
What is that for? Community relations?
When I buy, this year I bought bags for the National Night Out, the officers gave out. That's what that's, $1,000 for community relations is
Okay.
nothing.
Radio parts?
All right. Yeah, radio parts
Well-
and radio system parts.
Okay, well, our radios now are 5 years old. Motorola's starting to talk already about not servicing them anymore, but they still are, but they're 5 years old. So I've started buying the batteries are all going now. And eventually parts are going to start going on those radios. The next line item where he talks about radio system payment to county is a fund to start putting money away like you guys did years ago. So we were able to buy the new radios that we have. I can see within the next 5 years, the radios that we have will be gone. And the county will be forcing you guys to buy new radios.
So you want to put $10,000 away into that line item?
Yeah. Like I said, Motorola's already talking about it, getting rid of the radios that they have.
We're saving something going forward, so we'd be adding it to our asset line
Yeah.
rather than in here.
Well, it should probably, shouldn't that go into the capital purchase?
You
You could set aside by itself in the asset line if you wanted to keep it in there as money just sits in there from year to year and accumulates. That's dedicated for that. Doesn't have to, capital purchase is different.
Okay. We certainly put that as a follow-up.
I would give it its own category.
Maintenance of police cars from 12,000 to 12,000 year over year.
We're at just under 7 now. We have some new police cars. Can we trim a couple thousand off of that?
Still have
56.
five of them that are,
It doesn't matter.
I got one now going, having a rack and pinion put in,
Covered under warranty.
4 years old. I mean, you can, it's, we've gone down, that line item started at 20, we're down to 12,
How many police cars do we have?
8, 9.
And 6 of them are newer, right?
Doesn't matter, preventive maintenance isn't covered
I
under
know.
warranty.
I'm just trying to figure out in my head which ones are older
We have 3 new ones, 3
that are 3 years old,
that are 3 years old,
right?
and we have the Crown Vic that is 10 years old. Then I have the truck enforcement van that's also 10 years old. So you do have some, and plus you got to do preventive maintenance. They're in there every 3,000 miles. So that's why we're able to keep the number down. They're in Sanford, it's every 3,000 miles, getting new, we're very good about that. So, I mean, you want to take it down a couple? I'll do the best I can with it.
In my personal experience and professional experience, that's actually a rather low number.
But I will never not do preventive maintenance on it, even if I go over.
Right.
It'll just,
So going down, not going down, guys?
I don't recommend it.
No.
Okay, moving on. The scale maintenance, we know that scale is old. We got $300, we're $3,000 budgeted last year, 3,000 budgeted this year. Any
Could that come down? to
questions?
1,000?
You can bring it down 1,000, but if it needs work, it needs work. And depending on what you're doing with the whole overall budget anyway, that scale maintenance may be going bye-byes anyway.
So take it down 1,000? Okay. This one is interesting.
All right.
Maintenance of parking meters.
The next one is the parking meters. That's the removal of the parking meters.
Oh, that's the removal.
Oh,
It's just a
yeah.
one-time cost.
Yep.
I saw maintenance and I'm like,
Yeah.
Removal under public works, no.
Yeah.
They're already gone.
Yeah.
John, you took the meters down,
They're
didn't
all gone already?
That-
All right, so we might be able to get rid of that one then. Yes?
You also have to supply the signs to
we get any
replace that.
scrap?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
public
that-
works.
John,
Did
how
the
much
signs
are
go up
the,
yet?
John, how much are the signs going to be?
I don't know yet, that's just, it's something I've got to, we have to come up with a design, so it should be, maybe $20 a sign, $25 a sign, add a pole, maybe $40 a sign. So how many I put in, depends on how many I put up, I can put up 10, maybe $400 or $500.
Okay.
You know, I mean, that's a high number, I'm telling you right now, that's definitely high.
And John gave me a whole box of change that came out of the old ones, so. Yeah, it's a couple $100
You want
goes
to cut
in.
that?
Yeah,
6,000?
Yeah, you gotta pay for the signs, right?
Call it 5,500?
It pays for the signs, right?
it does.
No.
Done by Borough,
We're not,
Public
yes.
Works.
Oh, cutting it by
Staying or
5,500.
not?
I'm saying bring it down to 500.
Yeah, there's no need for it. He said the
If they're already out, it's coming out of this year's budget, not next
the
year's.
meters are out.
Can I just suggest you knock that down to 0 and transfer that 500 to John's budget? Because that's who's doing it.
Right.
John, it's,
Right.
Yeah, I don't know why it was put on this side.
So knock
I
it
think
down.
because the revenues are put on this side.
I'm giving it to you, John. Don't.
The revenues
Don't mow,
for
don't mow.
the meters was put towards the police.
What revenues?
Well, that's the thing. But in
Right.
theory, there was revenues in the past, like $800 a year.
Yeah.
That's why it's not worth having. All right, animal control officer, we have built in for $1,000. I think that's with Falls Township. That's our agreement with Falls, correct?
Yes.
How often do we get to use
How often do
animal
we get?
control
Or do they
officer?
respond?
My guys have been very good about it this year. Last year, radio would just right away call the animal control officer. Now our guys go out there and try to fix it first. That's why it's still at 0.
Right.
But you have to have, you still,
Right.
I mean, you want to cut it down by half, cut it down by half, but you still have to have a contract with them. You know, but my guys have been very good about it. I mean, we should, you know. we
The
did-
bats, bats.
Bats, raccoons, we've had it, you know, my guys are okay putting them down,
Oh,
you know. Sorry. So, I mean, if you want to cut it down by 500, I mean, that's just a drop in the bucket. I'm fine with that.
All right. Any other discussion about the $1,000 there? No? Okay. Police officers' court time going from 53,000 to 70?
It's got to be cut a little bit more.
30%, you're at 92% now.
I'm sorry, where
Yeah.
am
line
I?
400?
Yeah.
That's for court time.
You're at just under 49,000.
Right, which is how much what percentage is that?
92.
Right, I'm at 92% with, you know,
With a quarter to go.
right? So that's why it's going up. And as you guys know, you guys have handled my grievance that every court notice is read. Every job is read through to see who's necessary. I cut guys out all the time. And the guys are locking people up and people are fighting it. You know, what I pay for a traffic ticket that goes to Doylestown would curl your hair. 8 hours pay for a $25 fine. I'm sorry, $12.50 fine. If someone appeals it up there,
My God.
I have no choice. I have to send the officer.
Is there any way that can get moved down to district court?
It starts there. It starts at the magistrate level. If a person gets found guilty or gets found guilty in absentia, now it gives them the appellate right to the Commonwealth. Now it goes up to the Commonwealth. It's 8 hours pay for the officer to go up there
I'm 175 to go up there to collect
for
$12.50.
$12.50 fine.
Right.
Right, so it's, and, yeah. Get a bunch of those. And, you know, and the DA has been terrific with new programs for treatment and things like that, that cuts court time. But there's just so many arrests that the guys make, and it just adds up.
Then they charge them court time, but we don't get any of that, right?
No, court time, no, you don't get that money back.
That probably goes right to the
Yeah,
state.
that's not part of probation or anything like that, unfortunately.
All right, moving on.
So if we were to reduce that to 55,000 from 70, that'd be a 5% increase over last year, right?
Okay, but look where I'm at now. I'm at 92% of it this year,
And it was
with 3 months left,
60,000.
where I should be at 75%.
2017, he ended up over 60,000.
Yeah.
So it's not, and this is with increasing salaries.
And if you go back to 15, you would get 45.
So I'm going to go over no matter what.
Right.
You know,
This is
so
a,
if you want to make it imaginary, my
what we don't
imaginary
wanna
would go
do.
over, and that's, you know.
Right. No, we want it to be,
And if I ever really sat down and did the math, I bet you I'm cutting $50,000 out of that by not sending all the people to DA once and calling them and, you know, and saying, hey, can you, you know. So it's an ongoing process.
I know, you know, in a lot of the cases I've been involved with my cameras, I get the notices to stand by, and I'm like, well, do I go to work? Do I not go to work?
Well, the guys for standby, they come in here and they get paid 4 hours overtime to be on standby.
Right.
So that's almost like the DA saying, well, I'm giving you something, at least I'm not bringing them all the way up here. Okay, well, you're saving me a couple hours, but, you know, what's really going on? The DA needs to do more, not plea bargains, but a lot more sit-down meetings with their defense attorneys and really find out, because they're playing games going in there that day, and, you know, are you ready or are you not ready, you know? So,
I'd like to see more done on video, actually. You know, a prisoner can, you know, appear in court through video. It'd be nice if the officers were able to do that from their home in order to testify, you know, in a secure. Am I asking a lot?
Counselor,
don't like that
how would you like that idea?
I don't think you
Yeah,
can.
that just changes the whole dynamic.
That's never gonna happen.
The whole dynamics of the lawyer going after the
Yeah.
officer and,
Attest to
yeah.
That's,
full truth, you know.
Their intimidation factor, is that it?
The games we play,
Personally, in my day job, I need to see the person.
the games we play, yes. I could never
In
see
this
that.
job, I wish I could, but
Yes.
in that job, no way.
All right, ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay, 15,000 for police payroll, healthcare reimbursement. That's same year over year.
That's contractual.
We have healthcare insurance stipends, 9,000, which is the same year over year. It looks like it's trending to pretty much be that for 2018.
That's a contractual item. That's not that's not going to change.
Please, Chief, I don't know if you were here when I mentioned earlier about trying to combine healthcare policies. Would that be something you'd be interested in trying to?
I've actually given information to your borough manager and your the financial person about talking to different places about that. I know there has been talk about it, and I'm pretty sure at this point we're all in the same. And we are, John, aren't we? Yeah, we're all in the same now. So what they have to do is they got to look towards other townships and other boroughs and get everybody together
Combine them
to really,
smarter, yeah.
That's what
Maybe
they have
Falls
to do.
Township, combined with Falls Township or something.
Just not false. I mean, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right and do it with, 6 or 7 different municipalities and really get everybody
Right.
involved in it and really get your numbers as high as possible.
That's a good idea.
All right.
You take a break?
Yes, I have, sorry.
You okay if we keep moving forward? You
So
want us
then
to
we're
wait
in
for
the
you?
capital purchase for line 700?
That got moved to the capital
Yeah,
equipment.
that got moved to help the police budget and to get it out of the general fund. We moved the
Capital reserve.
$40,000 to capital purchases,
Yeah, capital reserve,
capital reserve, yeah.
maybe it gets pulled out of there.
So we'll still get paid, but not out of the police budget. Police pensions, that's $50,000, staying same year over year. I think it was 53 in 2017 and came in lower. It looks like it tends to come in lower. Do you know what's driving that?
Not a clue. I'm not involved in that at all.
Gotcha. Can you put a comment to find out why the police pension reserve is coming in lower each year than budgeted significantly?
What line item is that?
706.
706. Thank you.
What's it? I don't have any number on that. Where do you have that coming in?
50,000.
Is the
Yeah.
budget.
Are you
Right.
looking at, wait, are you looking at 700? Because that's right above that, and that's empty.
Yeah, 700's empty. That was the vehicle.
Right, but I don't know, what are you saying is coming in lower?
Well, in 2017, it ended up at 17,000 was the actual.
Right.
In 16, it was 28,000.
All right, I don't have that. Okay,
Well, yeah, this is a yearly trend.
okay. I don't know.
So we got something in our packet for both the
Yeah.
municipal workers and the police one
Yep,
comes out
I saw that.
for 2019
This
to
is
be
the actual, this is the budget.
53.7 and change.
It does end up being 53.7?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the formula they use. Now, whether
Whether it comes out to that, yeah.
time,
Gotcha,
you'll
so,
say it's different.
gotcha.
Yeah, that's all done over on the other side of the hallway.
Okay, so that's going to remain the same. Police department telephone expenses is staying the same year over year, 15,600. Postage expenses are staying the same year over year at 1,500. It looks like we're spending quite a bit less than that this year, but it varies. Any concerns there? No? Okay. Auto insurance for police vehicles is going from 15,000 to 17,250, which isn't bad for those vehicles.
Question for you, is that, do you have your own policy or does that come from all the borough vehicles?
What, does the police department have their own?
Yeah.
No, we're all in, everybody's together.
That's just their portion.
Well, I think they just split it out, that's all.
Is that another thing that could be done through consortium?
Consortium, or we could go out for, new quotes from different vendors.
I think Scott's really been talking to places.
Yep.
But you got to watch doing that, Dave. You get into situations that all of a sudden now you're responsible for some other townships.
Got to read the fine print.
Yeah, and all of a sudden they, God forbid, kill two people in an auto accident. Is everybody on the hook for it? And that's what you get with some of these other insurances, our liability insurance. Sat down with them 2 years ago or 3 years ago and said, that was when we did all our lawsuits 5 years ago. And I said, we have nothing in the tube. We got nothing going. It's planned out for 3 years. And that's what they talked about. We'll do a look ahead. Oh, yeah, your insurances are going to come down. Well, lo and behold, we're in this whole consortium with everybody else. Everybody else is seeing it going up. So, what happened to ours? Ours went up too. Even though we had no other lawsuits in the tube and still have nothing. They're still, just seems that the insurance companies seem to find a way,
To make money, yeah.
to go up.
All right, moving on. Okay, we have police professional insurance at 52,000. Looks like it pretty much comes in around 50,000 each year. We have police employees' health insurance at $212,750. That's up from $185,000 in the budget, so it's up 15%, which is in line with the increases in health insurance. Any questions about that?
That's going up again this year, right?
That's what that's projected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you got employee life insurance staying static at $3,600. Any conversation about that? Okay. We're going on to police department workman's comp. That's going from 105 to 80,238. So that's down about 24%. Moving on. All right, we have police killed in service. It's going from 3,000 to 3,250. Okay. We've got equipment rental copier going from 2,200 to 2,500. It's about $200 a month. All right, state and what is that?
That's my chief's dues.
Okay, chief's dues. Okay, that's $500. That's static from the prior year. We got the SRO insurances. Is that the,
Resource officer?
that's the actual resource officer?
Yes.
Okay. And have we heard anything from the school as far as that grant? I believe that they had said that it wasn't going to be covered this year.
They didn't get the grant.
They did not get the grant. They just put in for another one last Friday.
Okay.
That, if they would get that, that would cover his whole salary.
Okay.
But we don't know. And
Okay.
as of right now, his grants run out at the end of this year, and the next year we have to cover his full salary.
So when they anticipate finding out about this grant, do you know?
So that'll be for 2020,
No, the grant, no, it'll be for 2019.
for 2019, okay.
Yes, if they get that grant, that'll cover 2019.
Is the school intending to pay that?
Excuse me?
Do they intend to pay that if they don't get that?
That hasn't been discussed yet.
I know it's in their comprehensive plan that they just put out. This is the SRO officer, including that in there.
All right.
To pay it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. They don't know how they're going to fund it, but they put them in there. It's in their comprehensive plan, I believe.
Okay. Any other discussion? Moving on to the last couple here. We got police match for CERT program at $500. We have police department contingency expenses at $1,000, which is the same year over year. We have police technology expenses going from $15,000 to $30,000.
Is that the same thing for special enforcement equipment, or is there something different?
It's just more technology. Be real,
Could
yeah.
that be cut by 10,000 based on previous years?
Yeah. I had planned on replacing all the tough books, but by the way it looks that this is working out, doing them for $300 a piece.
Did you say tough books?
Yeah. They're
We're not cops, we don't know what that is.
It's a Panasonic tough book.
they're Panasonic, they're Panasonic.
It's a laptop.
You spell it any way you want. It's, no, it's,
Not an OtterBox.
that's all it is. It's a
military-
laptop in an otter box that goes in a car.
Oh, okay.
They're all touchscreen.
Gotcha.
And they,
Sometimes it's things stand for things.
this don't stand for anything but tough. That makes them tough.
Oh, there you
And,
go.
they don't,
10 grand.
How old are our 12?
This one.
right now they're 5 years old.
Just keep it at 15.
So we're,
It's only at
updating them for, I
52%.
think, 300 apiece.
Buying more new ones.
That's a hell of a deal.
But there's still, even if it's $300 each,
So you take, I don't know.
Maybe something else.
Yeah.
Is this a new line in 732?
Are you saying another 5,000?
Is that what you're using
Danielle?
as your MTDs? Tough books?
Yes, yes.
so what, I'm sorry, what was that?
No, I was asking what he was using the tough books for the MTDs, and they are, that's what it is.
All right, so can we keep that at 15?
So you want to cut 15 then?
Well, it was
I mean, right now you're at
40
50,
3 years ago, and I think there were.
and you're at
sounds like we're gonna have to-
52% right now with what you were budgeted last year. So you've only used 7,800.
But he's still, all right,
He just said we could cut that by 10.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
we're
was gonna-
taking it to 20,000, but are you saying go to 15?
Okay.
Is that what we want to do, guys?
15?
just know 5 years is really old for a tough book. That's when they start to have hard drive problems, and it makes them unrepairable.
All right.
And
Then we
this
have
is-
the amount for, we'll call it the negotiation that's in process.
So that is?
Come on, say it out loud. Say the number.
Oh, it's $65,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
For non-budgeted consult investigative.
That's for your lawyers.
That's what that is.
That's horrendous.
Got to do it. Negotiations.
That,
We got to be prepared for it. We don't know if we got to do it.
that number will never come in that.
So is this for the police contract?
That's for the police contract, yes. That'll never, if you're paying $65,000 for these guys,
We don't know, we're projecting, we're not going to know that.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
Next year. They're arbitrating all that.
So that could very well come down.
it will. That number, we end up paying $65,000, which is the cost of one of my police officers, we're doing something wrong.
Absurd.
Yeah.
Where do you think it should end up?
It should realistically.
25.
20, 25.
Okay.
That'd be a bet.
So do we want to cut 30 off of that, or do we want to leave it at 65?
Cut 40 off of that.
40?
I would talk to your manager and find out why he thinks that $65,000 mark's there.
Lawyer,
What are we cutting it down to?
25,000.
25?
That's it, right?
That's it.
Okay.
That's an attorney.
So we're cutting $40,000 off of that, right?
5 days.
Yep.
All right, so, let's see. What do we got here?
You're taking about 25?
153 minus,
Any other discussion about that portion?
Let's get a total.
On your way. You can use bond check anyway, so can you write that number down for me when I get back?
Oh, I didn't take a photo of this real quick.
Are we at 2.210153?
I got 2.178653.
Did I write that on my paper?
10,000, 1,000, 5,500, 15,000, 40,000. I got 2,178,653.
Say that again, please.
2,178,653.
Thank you. 217,865.
2,178,653. And what do we got for revenue?
Not bad considering I haven't had a raise in the budget in
All right, so,
Depends on who you ask. It depends on who you ask.
Well, you know what, I gotta ask, how are we in 3 years almost doubled the administrative budget? Well, we've gone from the 4s into the 9s.
$1,784,196.
We'll move on from there.
Get that, Mr. Bowers?
Okay,
Administrative part, we've gone from the 400,000s to the
you're
900,000,
$400,000 short.
300 years. Okay. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Wait for Debbie to come back. Yep, I know.
Are we having a hard stop here for public comment?
I believe the hard stop, somebody requested 10 PM.
You're almost actually done. Well, you're
We don't
done
have
your,
much more to go. Once we
you're
get
almost
through
done your
this.
general fund.
General fund's almost done, and then
Yep.
the others are easy. They should be same in, same out, right? With a little bit being pulled as needed.
10 o'clock is an absolute, I can't stay behind. It gives me 3 hours worth of sleep if I'm lucky.
And you just have planning commission, health and welfare, sanitation, streets, shade tree, water department. And that's your general fund.
Did you bring the bench book for Debbie tonight?
No, I didn't know I needed to. It's in my
She
other
said she
bag.
was gonna let you know.
Yep. All right, so we're on to the planning commission section. It's a very small section.
300,457.
Any questions about the planning commission revenues or expenses?
After all that's cut.
What's the 17,000?
Is that new? That's 17,000?
Oh, that's carryover from the prior year, I believe.
Planning commission. Next page.
Anything for the prior year.
That's monies that weren't spent that were allocated to it.
Yeah, it's just not showing anything on the prior years.
I'm pretty sure that's what that is, though. We can double check. Put this in for a follow-up. The planning commission, was it a $17,000 surplus from the prior year? I believe that's what it was. It wasn't spent, not necessarily a surplus, it was spent somewhere else, but that would have been not spent where it is identified.
It's under expenses. That's 17,000.
Yeah, so we got to ask about that.
We're going up from
Yep.
budgeted 8,802 to 22,000.
Yeah.
This number here is what?
This
And there may be
This
something
number
specific.
here.
We got to ask about that $17,000. All right, moving on to sanitation.
Last year.
There's going to be an increase for the contract.
The contract increases this year that we extended for 2.
There it is. Yeah, 2019 budget goes up by $11,500.20 contractual.
So there's a contractual increase.
Yep.
The salaries for solid waste is actually going down. Nominally, it's going down about 0.5%. Any questions about that? Tax collector pay is static year over year at 7,500 for collections of it. Sanitation employee benefits is going up 3%.
Insurances are going up.
Insurance is going up 15%. I think that's across the boards in all areas. That's the anticipation. Sanitation benefits going up 26%. It's going up from $2,000 to $2,531, which doesn't look like we spend that much ever.
No.
Why is the line 239, why was that eliminated? Vehicles maintenance.
Because he doesn't anticipate doing any maintenance in 2019 to the vehicles. From a sanitation perspective.
That's insurances too, though? Is it, maybe it's combined because you got the one above that for maintenance and equipment. Oh, that's under labor.
I have to ask him.
Yep.
The question mark there?
All right, labor maintenance of facilities is going up $300. That's 3% from 10,000 to 10,300. Public works labor is going up 3% from 13,000 to 13,390. Solid waste collection charges are going from $782,003 to $805,463. I believe that's the contracted amount, correct?
Yes.
All right, then we have miscellaneous dumping staying static at 4,500. It doesn't look like we typically spend that, but I personally don't have a problem with it unless somebody else does. Okay. Next line item that has a funding in it is office supplies, which is staying static year over year at $4,000. Again, it doesn't look like we spend quite that much, but it's a nominal difference of a couple $100. Any concerns there? Legal fees for advertisements is staying static at $1,000. It doesn't look like we spend on this line item, though. So I'm going to suggest we take it out.
Yeah, we've never used it.
What do they normally would advertise?
That may be when they actually, every
Comment here.
3 years or 5 years, when they advertise the contract for bid.
Yeah, could be.
Yep.
Could be that, yeah.
That's
why-
It could be from back when it was internal.
advertising.
Could ask them, but that might be for the advertisement when they redo the contract.
We just
Could
did
be.
it.
Don't they have to send out something to all the residents too? Because I remember getting it in the mail.
That's
Who
the
mails
next,
that
that's the
out?
next line, postage expenses.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And that's at $4,000. Doesn't look like we spent much this year, but in prior years, 4,700, 4,800, 3,200.
Depends on when the contract hits.
Yeah,
Right,
but you're at,
And we won't spend that till right about now when they send out the leaf
correct.
flyers.
Right.
All right, insurances up from 4120 to 4532. That's a 10% increase in insurances. Electric costs, the portion for the MMA would be 5,000, same as it was last year. Miscellaneous expenses, he has it at $2,473, which is static from the prior year. We're at $1,668 now. We've seen it as high as $3,000, so it fluctuates. Anybody have a concern with that?
67%.
Yeah. Yeah, so it might come in a little under this year, but I think the 2,400 is probably pretty solid. We've got a contingency in here for 7,200, which is the same as it was last year. Any concerns there?
no, it's at 60% right now.
Okay. And then payments to BCPC at 1,500.
So it stays pretty the same.
It's staying the same as last year. Any concerns there?
Yeah,
All right.
the numbers are pretty correct what he has there for sanitation.
They are, but our problem is this, the sanitation, no, that's right. Yeah, no problem there.
That's pretty much for that.
Yep.
That's
Nope.
pretty,
I'm good there. Anybody else?
My only comment on that is looking at the handout he gave us a few weeks back that had the sanitation fund, as I think was page 3. And we had the pie chart in the front.
have that.
He showed,
you want it?
no, he showed that the second thing on here for financial year 2019, in order to balance the sanitation fund, the total should be 1,049. So I think that 8,000 that disappeared will probably.
Probably reappear to cover that,
Because they had the wrong amount.
that amount. Yeah, because it wasn't being billed
Yeah.
at the right amount.
The numbers were wrong. This sheet that you got this year on the sanitation fund is correct. It shows the increases.
Yep. Everybody got that increase sheet?
This is the one I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, we got streets. New capital reserve. Total streets is 59,473 versus a budget of 61,735. So we're going to be reducing that by about 3.5%, a little more than, let's call it 3 3/4.
Yeah, hold on.
We're already
Streets.
we're already over for year to date.
Well, we're at.
Close to.
Yeah. I don't think, and John could probably tell us if I'm wrong, I don't think we're doing a whole lot of like patching at this point, correct?
Yeah, right now,
We're out of season.
Yeah, we're right at where we're supposed to be.
Good.
We're not over on it.
You're not.
Yeah,
All right.
this looks like it's just almost a mill that's set aside to go towards capital improvements.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, that's.
Paving
yeah.
projects and
Yep.
streets.
Yeah, that's the capital reserve.
Street maintenance. All right, shade tree maintenance. Looks like we're going from 6,000 to 8,000. Looks like we've way underspent this year and the prior year, but you go back to 2015, 2016, we were using that budget, that budget line, and it's probably something we should be doing more maintenance with. Thoughts?
Yeah, you gotta do the trees.
I'm just curious why we have 3 different line items for trees. Maybe Scott could explain that to us.
Yeah, there's different things they pull it for and different funds that different things that fund it.
Shade tree has to be its own.
Yep.
Right, dedicated, yeah.
All right, we're moving on to water department, Jane's favorite subject. All right, so water department salaries for the crew chief is going up 3%, which is static to what's expected. Water department salaries in general going up 15% from 114,946 to 132,950.
And just so people realize too, that this is in percentages, so part of it is like in another fund also. They're not all in one fund.
Yeah, and just to be clear on this, the MMA, for anybody who doesn't know, the MMA gives a stipend every year of $650,000 that the borough utilizes specifically for the jobs that they need done, fixing pipes, fixing water mains, that kind of stuff. So the Public Works actually assists the MMA in those functions, and they pay us to do that. All right, water salaries for superintendent is going up 3% as expected. Water department crew leader is going up 3%. And these aren't full salaries for these folks, these are partial salaries for the amount of time they spend doing it.
Yeah.
Then you have crew leader insurance going up 15%. From 23,886 to 27,468. You have crew leader workman's comp going from $2,704 to $3,422. Then we have water department Social Security, and that's going up 3%. We have employment insurance going up 15%. As we've said, the insurances are climbing up in each area.
Yeah.
You have the water department workman's comp going from 4120 to 5371, which is a 3%, a little over 3% increase. I'm sorry, a 30% increase. You have the water department public works employee salaries going from 154,668 to 159,308. Which is a 3% increase. You have the benefits going up 3% as well. You have employee insurance going up 15%. You have Public Works, Workman's Comp, again, going up 3%. So some of this is for labor, some of this is for administration overseeing things. Just for anybody who isn't sure. Then we have water contingency, we're being asked for $10,000. We don't have it. They're not paying enough to put that in there. When you look at the bottom, guys, the budget calls for $775,000, they only pay $650. So in general, this needs to be pushed back, and Scott needs to be told we need to come up with something at $650, because taking the MMA money and spending more than the $650 is double dipping on the taxpayer,
So you want
because they're already paying their MMA bill.
So
It should come out of their
take the
taxes as well.
10,
So cut this to zero?
I would say $1,000. I mean,
I mean, we went 3 years with, there was nothing in that
I
category.
know. Well, he's trying to have some
Some,
just in case money. You got to have something in case,
What line are you talking about? 382?
water contingency.
169.
What line though? Oh, you guys are, okay.
Did you find it?
Yep.
So what are we doing? We're cutting that? Or
I
asking
would,
them to?
I would say it needs to be cut by at least 9,000. If you guys want to cut it out completely, that's another story. I'm okay with that too. I believe you need to have some kind of contingency just in case. $1,000 isn't much, but it's something.
Take to 1,000.
Gotta fit that on that board somewhere?
need another board.
Yeah, right.
9,000.
Yeah.
You put it on there?
If you keep, I could flip it if you want.
It's up to you.
Well, let's get through
There's not that much.
MMA, because unless anybody feels differently, I think we have to push back and say you got to get this down to 650. So regardless of what we're talking about, we need some major work done on this, right? Anybody disagree with that?
No.
No.
Because that's all we have to spend on it. Okay, but we can still go through the line items.
Well, we can, I guess, I don't know, unless we could maybe skip down to the, do you know why contingency, line 385? No, not that one. Sorry, 388. Do we know why that jumped?
Street repairs, wait, 388?
Yeah, it's a wish list. He wants
Say
additional
388.
contingencies.
Projects.
No, that wasn't it. What am I looking at? Sorry. 700.
Oh, 700.
Why, do we know why they were budgeted 700, but they spent almost 3,200 under water, excuse me, miscellaneous? Do we know why they spent so much?
From what I know, it's not that they spent so much, we're tracking things differently. Where those things weren't showing up before because they were falling under other line items, they're being tracked more accurately now.
If I had to take a guess, it's because the janitorial service is split up.
Part of it.
For the MMA too.
Oh, okay.
All right, well,
Do we know how much that janitorial service is total?
Yeah, it was given to us.
23?
Yeah, I think that's even a little high.
Yeah, that was high.
Yeah.
No, it was less than that.
Was it less than that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were given a copy of the
Yeah, it was
contract.
a lot less.
So this is
19 or
gonna be
20, I
testing
think, if I
trend to
recall.
650.
Yeah, it was low though. It was low 20s from what I recall. But I could, again, it's off the top of my head and I don't have it in front of me.
So you had 770.
Anything else on that?
All right, so that's staying, right? Or we're just gonna tell them it's gotta be cut back? to
I mean, I don't
meet
see any
that?
other event horizon that we can justify spending 775 on a project we only get 650 for.
So that's 125 less.
Yep. But that's specifically out of MMA funds, right?
That's where this is coming from, our department.
Yeah.
You're 125, 580 over budget.
Yep.
All right, so we're making a number in here, or we're just giving them to him that he's gotta bring this down?
I think he's got to bring it down. I mean,
So we're just looking over why these are up that high? and he's
unless
gonna
there's
have
something breaks with the MMA, I don't see any event horizon to spend more than what we're getting, right?
to- right. Otherwise, it's inflated. All right. We're just gonna have to look at this whole fund.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the general fund. Do we want to take a 10-minute recess? And then finish this up?
It's up to you guys.
All right.
Are you gonna leave time for public comment? Or, because if we have a hard, yeah, I know, but I'm saying if we have, is our hard stop 10? Because we might have an hour of public comment.
Are there 3 minutes?
I don't know, we got 3 minutes apiece.
I mean, we could stop at 9:45 if you want. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it was something.
Come back
Dave asked
tomorrow,
for,
you wanna end it
stop
at this
8,
point,
at
and we'll
10.
do
There was
public
no-
comment.
I'm just trying
conversation
to figure
beyond
out what's
that.
going on.
Do you want to stop the general fund now? We'll do public comment and come back tomorrow. It's up to you guys, what do you want to
That
do?
one, general fund.
1,337 over budget.
Yep. So, well, no,
Total.
I would
We
ask,
can't be right. We started at one, we didn't go up.
1,033,337.
100.
With-
Okay, 1,003,000.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah, that's okay.
sorry.
Debbie,
1.003.
and then take public comment from there.
Stop now if you want. Do you want to go past?
Do a little bit more. We'll do some more.
It's up to you guys, but I mean.
We'll have to come back tomorrow.
You do the other funds aren't
Doesn't matter.
that big, but it's up to you
The other
guys.
funds are quick.
Go through them.
Keep going, let's see where we are at 9:30.
So what do you want to do?
It's up to you. Keep going.
Okay,
Well, you need a break?
let's take a break. Let's take
Yeah,
that.
she needs a break.
Yeah, because if I'm doing your projected and your budget,
So Danielle,
We're going to take a 10-minute break, everybody.
How much did we shave?
Not much. Not much, not much. We'll cover.
Over $500,000.
no,
Well, that's not out of the police budget. That's out of admin
Right.
revenues.
so hold on.
About the variance. Yeah, so how much did we shave off the variance?
I think we took about,
Hold on.
yeah. You're talking overall, the overall variance, okay.
Calculator on here.
No, I knew we did, listen, I said it was, I sat up here and said, I feel like I'm being punked when I looked at that thing.
580
Right.
Just, no way.
plus. I need. Do 22, can I use this? Sorry, I need like multiple calculators here. 2250153 minus 2178.
Let's just say we need a miracle or rob a bank.
That was right.
I don't know about you guys, but I plan on hitting, mega millions.
Yeah, but when we have the same numbers, you're gonna lose half your
Give
money.
Mega Millions, you better blow this town.
653. Plus 71.5. Oops.
So I feel about it.
Tropical Island, right?
Tropical Island.
As a citizen, I'm being honest.
By a mountain.
You want this?
125, 580.
My calculator wasn't good. I had to put the numbers in there.
Sorry. 71,500.
this was our deficit starting, right?
The variance, yes.
Okay. We've taken 400-some thousand already out from the administrative. So
Out of what administrative?
did you just say that we're still at 1 point something million?
002.
I'm still figuring it out.
002, I
How
think she
can we
said.
be? 'Cause you
We
take-
can't be.
You take 400,000 out of that, we're down at 8.
Yeah, we can't be.
And this 75 is not coming out, right? That's just, it was a-
20.
She's suggesting it should go in, not come out. That's why I put it in red.
Oh,
right, but
okay.
I think she said maybe that'd be reading. So the rest, but the rest of it, you take everything else. If you take all this off, what's this number come to?
Here you go.
For what?
$217,080. That's all you shaved off.
Are you including this too?
400.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that contingency was.
Sorry.
So we're at 633,000 now. Okay.
So you're at 563.
563,000. Yeah, no.
Oh, 63.
And that's overall.
217,080.
Yeah, but there's money that comes in that is designed to pay for certain
I
things,
got
right?
628.
So, you have money you have revenues that come in that are designed to pay for police
628,
expenses.
606
Our
is your
tax,
contingency right
our real estate revenue can go towards
That's how
that.
much you've
But
shaved
then you
off.
have things like, you have
Wait, what do we have
other
left?
fees that come in that are to,
That's how
like
much we're taking off
permitting,
the
that are
budget?
to
That's how much you're
provide
taking
that
off the budget.
service. So we also need to look at it based on how many revenue lines we have, what we're expecting for those revenue lines, and what we can dedicate to that without pulling out of monies that should go for something else. And that's something that's gone on here for a very, very, very long time.
But they were in and out, she talked about pretty much, right? So they don't
Well,
budget unless they.
Not really, there's some revenues, like, for instance, there's licensing for contractors and stuff like that, that's a revenue that's supposed to help run the borough. So, because there's a lot of admin expenses, we have to have
This
staff
amount is the
downstairs
only
running
amount they
those
use.
things. So it's really a matter of
Hold out.
putting us in a position where the revenues that we're
Six-
getting,
expense.
we're trying to align with,
628,
for me at
606.
least, trying to align with what they're intended to be used for. So this is a piece of it, and the overall is
I take-
1.209 to start out, which I knew wasn't even
$20,000 out of there.
anywhere in the realm of being reasonable personally. But then we have to look at it and say, okay, here are the line items that we could use for these things. Are we spending those revenues on the things they're supposed to be spent on, or are we spending them on things that have nothing to do with what the revenue is intended to pay for?
The property taxes go up every year, is that already in the 44?
We didn't raise taxes last year. We didn't raise taxes last year, that was a school.
That's a school, not us.
Yeah.
Oh, so it doesn't affect
The
us.
year
No.
before, in 2017, they actually lowered them by $10 mils. And they stayed the same, and then the school district came in and gave them a Christmas present.
Jacked them way up,
And my taxes are up.
way up.
Some way in the
your
figures,
addition.
you gotta figure out how to get that revenue to go up.
Yeah, and I actually think that's a little high for what we got going on. Yeah, I think we're probably gonna end up at 4.3.
You gotta come up with some kind of strategic plan. I know Scott makes fun of me about plan, but he does, and I don't understand that. But we're gonna be back in the same place again next year.
That's the point.
And the year after this, continually laying people off unless we come up with a plan that could bring the revenue up.
But you don't spend everything always either.
What?
You don't always spend it.
Right, they spend more.
Yes, correct.
Trevor, we spend more every year than we've had. That's the problem.
Well, that's where you gotta bring it to people. That's why the Fed does it, you know?
And we end up
Spend it,
borrowing,
you can't do that.
and we end up doing things like,
You would spend your budget. You know,
Keep spending.
right?
Keep raising.
So, I mean, those people do
It's somewhere along the line.
All right, I got 573,026,
$27,000.
which is the legal solicitor, the website,
Can we
engineer,
get back to this?
all right.
and then everything for the police. 573,26.
573.
So that's the variance,
No, that's how much you shaved off.
573.26.
That
That's
was
with 120 grand from the MMA.
the legal solicitor, huh?
That's with 120 grand from the,
Yeah. You want me to take that off?
Yeah.
What was it, 125?
I don't have the actual number.
125,
All right, so 125, all right, so 698.26 is what you shaved off.
All right, we ready to get back on this?
You still need $400,000 more.
Yep, and that's only general fund. The stuff we're talking about now is outside of the general fund, so none of this affects what's in the general fund, just so you know.
Right.
It can't affect it, the library, the street
Right.
lighting expenses, all that is separate
They're dedicated.
revenues that are paid for out of the dedicated fund.
Right.
And do not affect any of this, just so everybody knows.
Dedicated revenue.
All right, so street lighting revenue, or street lighting fund, I'm just gonna take it at a higher level, if that's okay with everybody. And see that we're budgeting.
Hold on.
Yep.
Where we at? Hold on.
We are right under
General fund.
706, under street lighting, so total street lighting expenses. We show it 125,857 versus the 2008 budget at 112,595. It's an 11.78% increase. My problem with that is we're only expecting 84,000 in revenue.
It went down.
Well, it went down because if you look, the top line is really what was carried over in that fund from the prior year, and we're carrying over less in that fund in 2019. So we're actually doing more work, or 2018, we're doing more work and carrying over less. Makes sense? So that's got to be balanced, so that's a pushback. We got, well, fire fund, it's same in, same out, whatever we get in, whatever the mill rate is, goes right to the fire department.
That's right. In and
So
out.
there's nothing to touch there. Library fund, looks like we're having in this this fund, we should see about the same balance carried forward from the prior year of 29,000.
They're pretty solid,
There is a
actually.
wish list item in here, I believe,
Yeah, the fire department does a good job with
of
their
fixing
budget.
the roof for $105,000.
It's
I
leaking.
don't see that happening this year at least.
Which one are we on?
That doesn't
Who's
mean
negotiating?
that the council has to do
Who's
that.
negotiating?
Negotiating what?
The cuts in the police department.
We're not
We
saying
asked
that.
for recommendations. Were those
We,
from borough manager?
right.
And he provided
with
a
the
couple of
police
options.
chief, There's, yeah,
But that was under the
All it was.
budget, that wasn't under police negotiations.
No.
right.
Okay.
But as far as like everybody thinking that's where some of these cuts are going to come from for the police department, we don't know what that's going to be. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with all that.
At the end of the day, we're the legislators, right? So it's going to be what we vote on. All we could ask our manager for, we can't hide behind the borough manager. We have to ask him for the options, and we have to choose the option that, for me, I need to be on board with the option that not only gets us to a balanced budget in 2019, but presents something sustainable that's going to stick around. And you heard the chief say you're going to be right back here next year, right? So something that's more sustainable than a year or two. We got to look 5 years out and say, well, what does this mean in 5 years? Is raising taxes enough of an answer? Or are we going to be going, okay, so we put in the 5 mills additional that we go to court, we put in the 5 mills additional, that comes out to just under $300,000. That gets eaten up already because we still haven't even resolved that. Then I've heard talks about an EIT because we looked into it.
Right.
That's another $900,000. But at these increases,
How many years?
year
will that
over
take?
year, we're 5 years out and we're going, okay, we've exhausted everything and we haven't even put anything in
So
place
that
to
would
be
be, that
sustainable.
would be a great question to get an answer to. You know, if we do institute hypothetically an EIT, how many years, you know, we're landlocked. So we're not going to have, we don't have a lot of other revenue sources unless we can come up with something creative. We're talking really about taxes. So, you know, if we were to institute a, you know, EIT at 900,000, you know, it's a race again. You know, we have the revenue and then we have our year over year expenses growing. How many years will that take to catch up?
Well, seeing as how a portion of that would already be getting eaten up by this budget, you're looking at less than 5 years.
Okay.
If the increases are close to being the same as what we're looking at here.
So just to summarize then, a hypothetical EIT at 900,000 would be a 5-year stopgap.
Approximately. If we're exponentially increasing operating costs the way we're doing year over year now.
Okay.
I interrupt and have 30 seconds.
Sure.
What the council was talking about was EIT. That was a 2016 quote that we got from Keystone. That may be higher at this point. So you take $900,000 from that, minimum, could be $950, get $400,000 more from the MMA, you're $1.3 million. Don't look at Ms. Berger.
Why not?
Let's see if she fell off the chair.
I want to see if she collapsed.
She's not, wait a second, we own that water authority. Okay, that is our water authority. 1.3 to 1.4 million dollars. You take $500,000, we pay off our debt. We're even for this year. We take $900,000 and we put that in the bank. We do that for the next 5 years, you're at $5 million. We do that for 10 years, we're at $10 million, making $500,000 a year. Now we have a 10-year strategic plan looking forward, and you're bringing money into the borough every year by the money you're making off of that.
From the rest of it.
You're suggesting a hostile takeover
Of what?
of that board. They're not gonna vote for that.
Do that.
I'm sorry, but
take over?
sometimes you don't have to give them a choice.
It's a hostile
For us,
takeover
for us
then.
to be here and to continue the borough the way we like it to be, sometimes we have to go to your money-making opportunity, and that is your water authority. Or the other point is, if you want to go in another direction,
The only thing I got to say about that, and maybe quote me if I'm wrong about this, but by law, even if, let's say, you took over the MMA, you can't just take all the revenue and put over here to balance your budget.
well, that's
You
not all the
cannot.
revenue, that's not all the revenue.
No, but I'm just saying, you can only have a certain percentage of any monies that they have to come over. That's why I believe that, I could be wrong, but I believe that's how that works.
The money that's coming
Because
over
Government
now,
controls that.
that pays for John's salaries, are a service that they provide. It isn't like they're giving us money to go, here you go, guys, you do whatever you want with that. He's paying his salary and fixing the holes and fixing everything out there for that. So you take that $1.4 million and you have a 10-year strategic plan that'll work to cover your costs and to give you money every year coming in for the next 10 years.
Except I don't see that board, I agree with you, that's a great plan, but I don't see that board agreeing to
Okay,
that.
here's the other thing. They don't agree. sell the Wood Authority, get $25 million in the bank off of that.
That's a one-time infusion of cash into the budget.
No, it's not.
That's
It's
gonna- that's not
25,
gonna
you
do
get
nothing.
$25 million, you put that away, and you cannot
Put in
touch
a
that,
guaranteed annuity.
and you
Getting
live off of that money.
You can do whatever you want. I'm going to tell you right now, anything you do to take from the MMA is a tax on the taxpayers. No matter how you handle it, you're hammering the taxpayer. The more you ask from the MMA, the more they're going to have to increase their fees, their water usage fees and their sewer fees, so it's a tax. You institute an EIT, it's a tax. If you think the school district is going to sit by and let you institute an EIT and not join on board, you're mistaken. Another tax increase. Are you giving back, you're wait, let me finish. I'm talking, let me finish. Are you going to reduce my property tax? Because if you institute a 0.5% EIT, that's an extra household tax of $1,500 to $2,000 a year. Are you going to reduce my property taxes to offset that increase? Or am I just coming up with $2,000? Am I pulling that out of the air to pay?
And
How are
that's
we
a
handling it?
temporary decrease, temporary. Because you're gonna have that tax go up anyway. You're gonna be paying the EIT plus increase in property taxes. He's correct.
Yep.
And then if you're going to strong arm the MMA to giving you more money, I'm going to be paying a larger water and sewer bill. So when does it stop?
That's what I want to know.
So are you saying then one or the other?
No, I'm saying,
You need to come up with a strategic plan for 5 years. You need to build a gap in your district.
in your means.
That's what you need to do.
is kind of a fairy tale. We are
You need a
landlocked.
strategic
We
plan
have
in place to
revenue.
address our continued
need to come up with
increasing
revenue.
needs.
No
But you
more.
cannot do it
Expenses
this
go up
year.
every
You need to
year. Our
stopgap
revenue
what we need
stays
to
here,
do now.
expenses go up.
Sorry, with
That's the
property
reality
tax
of it.
increases on the
Year after year after
the general
year.
fund side. You're gonna have to go to court, like it or not.
That's the
I
reality of
don't
it.
believe that, but I'm on a lot of the same page with you right now.
How do you get an increase at a 0.5% of an EIT at $2,000 to $3,000 a household?
My household.
Ooh. You need to go to Georgia's financial school, because you're doing very well.
Yes.
A lot of people are. Your average household is two
Maybe he just has a
incomes.
lot of people that live in his household.
Your average household here is, you're gonna have two incomes, and even if they're at 50,000 apiece, you're talking, you know.
$500.
Right.
Or two retired that can't afford anything.
Well, that's not taxed. That's not EIT.
EIT doesn't affect it.
No, doesn't protect
Okay.
retirees.
Right,
That's
the
not
retired
what I
people
was
don't get
saying.
affected, fixed income people that are on social security, that does not touch them.
Well, then put it in.
So if you're a young upward mobile couple and you're making 125,000 household income, and your choice is here or Falls Township, what are you gonna pick?
I'm going falls.
Welcome to my rental.
That's what's gonna happen.
Where's your other choice?
What?
We don't raise any revenue, and you keep continuing cutting it, like we talked about, we'll be here every year.
No, we
cutting
won't,
and
because you
cutting.
need to work on a 5-year strategic, or 5 or 10-year strategic plan to address these things. And if they include tax increases, fine. You cannot just introduce a tax increase without a plan.
Right, no doubt.
So then let's get through this budget the best we can, filling it the best we can, without gutting our workforce, and work on that 5-year plan. It needs
Where
to
are we
be
gonna come up
done.
with the money though?
You're gonna have to make some cuts, and you're gonna have to make some increases. That's the
Well,
bottom.
we looked at it. I don't think we're gonna come up with that amount of money.
You're gonna have to look at increases.
$295,000 doesn't fix anything. Because that's what the 5 mills would be.
If you
And then you
start-
can't
if
go
you
any
decided you were gonna go with an EIT today, how soon off are we gonna get the first
2
revenue?
years.
Well, it won't
I mean,
even
you'll get a
affect
little bit from
2019.
existing payers.
Scott said it would take
2
2 to 3
years
years
before
to see.
you're getting a full
Did
run
anybody
of
talk
it.
to Keystone about that?
Um,
Because here's my thought.
I didn't personally.
They can tell me like that our residents are already paying $330,000 to other municipalities.
Right.
So that tells you, there's,
Well, that you would get.
oh my God, you get that tomorrow.
But that's, no, because,
tomorrow, but I
well,
mean-
because you got to reach out to all those employers and let them know where to push the
Or
money.
send
to.
it,
Yeah.
right. So you're already at 1/3 of it already done.
Yeah, it's about $300,000.
I bet you start, if you did it now, which I'm not saying you're doing it tonight, but you did it now, you're probably seeing that money by June.
I don't know that we have the votes to make that happen.
I'm not voting EIT.
It's one of your options that you got to look at, or like they talked about.
Not without a plan to spend that revenue in the future.
Well, that's where the finance committee has to really narrow down to what a 5 and 10-year strategic plan is. what that looks like.
In the meantime,
And we're reaching 10 o'clock?
I just want to point out that I may have a Facebook page, but I'm not a spokesman.
I was saying that generically, man. I wasn't
I want
making
to
it.
point that out.
If it's a closed Facebook page, you better not be a spokesman for council. Sunshine.
Open, right.
I keep saying that, but nobody listens. You cannot have a closed Facebook